So it's going to help get those winds out of the southwest and pushes Melissa out of here. But that means a heavy shot of rain for the East Coast starting out to the Midwest Tuesday and Wednesday. That's Wednesday. That is Thursday. That is Friday. Another shot of very heavy rain. It's actually beneficial for the Northeast. We'll get to that coming up in a bit. But beach erosion is going to be a factor again for the Outer Banks all the way up through New England. We'll look at that in detail in just a bit. All right, we're not done with Melissa. We got a hurricane expert, Brian Norcross, coming up in the next hour. 175-mile-per-hour winds. I wish I didn't have to report that, but the pressure continues to drop. It's intensifying right now. Where does it go from here? How strong can the dang thing get? We're your Fox Weather. We're your Hurricane HQ. We'll have all the answers coming up right after the break.
Got a great business idea? Give it a domain name from GoDaddy. Every order comes with our effortless AI experience, GoDaddy Aero, which will generate a logo, landing page, and more for you in just a few clicks. With our award-winning support, it couldn't be easier to start an online business with us, which is why we're trusted by more than 20 million customers. Unlock your online potential today with GoDaddy.
All right, here we go. Hurricane Melissa pushing 2025 hurricane season in the Atlantic into the record books. 175-mile-per-hour winds. We just got the 2 o'clock advisory a couple minutes ago. It's incredible, and it continues to lose pressure and means it's continuing to intensify. How low is it going to get? We'll show you that. Look at the forecast track. That's going to get an update here at about 5 o'clock, but this is what we're going with right now over Jamaica, over Cuba, the southeastern Bahamas, we clip into the Turks and Caicos, and then it's got its sight sets for Bermuda. That's going to be later in the period, most likely late Thursday and the early part of Friday. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Bob Van Dillen. This is the America's Weather Center. We're your Hurricane HQ. We've been following us. Got a brand new update, so let's get right to it. We've got Brian Norcross right on board right now. And Brian, right off the bat, this pressure continues to drop. The intensity is starting to, do you think we're going to get below 900 millibars? I mean, I don't see any signs of an Iowa replacement at all.
Well, the fact that it's wobbling a little bit is a little bit of a sign, and the fact that we do see some moat, it's called, dry area around the eye is another little sign, but not any big signs, certainly. We don't see any change in the pressure or maximum winds coming into play outside of the eye. So maybe not. This may just continue to intensify. So a couple things have happened. One is, as it's moved a little bit south down in here, it's gotten over a very, very warm pool of water. And it's these small features that can make it kind of perk up suddenly, and then it can actually lose a little intensity just a bit. So it's always a little bit of plus or minus. So that pressure right now, 906 millibars, that's getting into the top 10 ever measured pressures. That's lower than Hurricane Maria was at its peak down near Dominica, and 175 mile an hour winds. So absolutely incredible. Just west-northwest, right on track at 3 miles an hour. So it's actually stirring up some cooler water. There's not much cool water to stir up, but such that it is doing that, moving that slowly. So it's all, like you say, for the record books, Bob. There you see the incredible hurricane, Mother Nature's most magnificent and most dangerous storm. And if you had to put some good news on this, is that it's not very big. And in the core of it, this part right here, is relatively small. So when we get to talking about how far out the winds are going to extend and what part of the island you're going to get the strong winds, it's not the whole island, as we were kind of afraid of earlier when we thought it might take a more northerly track before it turned north. And then the whole island would have gotten kind of raked with maybe not the strongest winds, but very, very strong winds in here. But it's taken this more southerly track, which has allowed it to get stronger farther away from land, over the pools of warmer water, and but also not have so long a strong impact on the island. All right, here's the radar out of Kingston, the Meteorological Service in Jamaica. And if you see what I mean here, Bob, see the kind of green ring that you can kind of make out around the eye at times? That's a moat, and sometimes that's an indication that this next band out will become try and be an eye wall as opposed to just being a band. But every time we think that maybe that's happening, then that goes away. So no indication based on what the hurricane hunters have found and what they found with the radar on the NOAA research planes, no sign of a peak in wind outside of the immediate eye. All right, so here's the expectation in terms of the forecast. There, first of all, is how far out the winds extend. So some tropical storm force winds, the yellow means 40 miles per hour plus, so some tropical storm force winds over Jamaica now. These are the hurricane force gusts, and this you can just barely make it out under the icon. Those are sustained hurricane force winds. So you see it's relatively small compared to the island. I mean, this is a very thankful kind of thing. Now, the question is, could it go through what's called an eye wall replacement cycle, where that bigger eye wall forms and the storm generally just gets bigger? Everything gets bigger before it gets up to the landfall up in here. Well, it could, but it's running out of time because it is forecast to make landfall about 9 a.m. in the morning. So that's 18 hours or so from now, 19 hours from now. So that's not a lot of time. In fact, it may be too little time for it to do it in that distance there. Okay, so here's the forecast. By this evening, they're forecasting 165. Well, it's already 175. This was the forecast back before when it was 165 at 11. So they updated at 5 o'clock, and we'll see what the thinking is. I mean, generally, they don't maintain the super strong, just can't maintain it. It's like a top spinning. It always runs into something. There's some little reason that it starts kind of wobbling around. Usually that happens. So we'll see what their forecast is. In any case, incredible Category 5 hurricane this evening. There you see the hurricane force gusts right there. All right, then overnight tonight, the winds increase on Jamaica. This is near landfall. Now, this is nominally 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. local time there on Jamaica. There you see where the hurricane force gusts extend out in this analysis forecast by the Hurricane Center, close to the Kingston metropolitan area, but odds are their gusts there are going to be in the 60-mile-an-hour range or something like that. But so the threat in Kingston doesn't look like it's going to be from the wind. It looks like it's going to be from the rain on the mountains coming down through the city, and also to some degree from the storm surge, but they're not going to get the peak storm surge. They're not going to get the 13-foot storm surge there, but they will get a storm surge with a slow-moving storm pushing water against the coast for such a long period of time. But this is where the destruction is going to be, and take this circle right there and then translate that across the island. That's where the real corridor is going to be, that they're not going to be able to build anything really, and the trees are not going to stand, and it'll be a swath across Jamaica that I imagine we'll be able to see from the satellite, where the trees have been knocked down and the damage is just massive in that swath, not to mention what goes on here on the southern coast, and not to mention the flooding from the tremendous rain coming down from the mountains. Then it moves on, and so that by Tuesday evening it's passed, and then the question is, what can be done, what roads are open, and so forth, to figure out what happened. So you can see this city here, Mandeville. Mandeville is about 2,000 feet up in the mountains. It's the only significant city in Jamaica that is not right at the coast. And it's a good-sized city, and it's right in the path of this thing at 2,000 feet. Now, a little while ago, the hurricane hunters measured the wind at 1,000 feet. Remember, the wind gets stronger as you go higher. So at 1,000 feet, they measured it over 240 miles per hour. So very, 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 very concerned about wind, people staying safe from the wind in Mandeville. And then along this coast here, you have a town called Black River, and you have a kind of a resort area called Treasure Beach. They're all right in the way of where this storm surge is forecast to occur. It's a very high confidence forecast now. There is just no chance this core of this is going to come over and hit Jamaica. There you have the NHC, European, and Google models. Everybody agrees that's what's going to happen. Even if you look at the width of the Google model, you see the concentration is all right here near the center. These are outliers over here, very, very, very low odds. So this is where the destruction is going to be from the wind, but the rain is everywhere across the island. And then you have on the south coast the storm surge. Like I said, over here you see Black River is going to be very close to the center, but right down the coast from Black River, right down in here, is Treasure Beach, which is sort of the resort area down there. And if something like this works out, that's going to be really, really bad. I hope everybody is away from the water for this, because this is where the 13-foot forecast of storm surge is going to be. And as you go farther west, the storm surge in general will be less, except that every time you have a bay like this, the water gets pushed in there and then can't get out. And same thing in Kingston Harbor. So it gets elevated in the bays compared to what it is on a flat coast, where the water can go up and kind of spread out and have room to maneuver, so to speak. So you get just more water piled up in the bays. There's another one right there. You can see them all along this kind of scalloped southern coast of Jamaica. And then the rain, you can see where the corridor is, that the forecast is right in here for the track of the storm up that way. So the incredible rain, that's Mandeville kind of right in there, and we're up in the multiple feet of rain there. So that's why you have on the west side of it there, you have this kind of area of rain here, and then the wind comes around like this, and you have another area where that moisture goes around and hits the mountains. And then over here, these are the tallest mountains over here outside of Kingston. There you see. So Kingston kind of sits kind of in a valley in here. Metropolitan Kingston is over in here. So all this water that falls in these mountains here has to drain down this way. So this is going to be the threat in Kingston. And the storm surge, such as it is going to want to push the Caribbean water up into the harbor while there's other waters trying to come out the harbor. So this is all a recipe for significant flooding all along the coast there from the two kinds of water coming different directions. Then the storm goes over Cuba and into the southeastern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. So from the central Bahamas south, they have everybody on alert to prepare, and then on off to Bermuda. Bermuda just happens to be once again in the center of the cone. We'll see, in order to get the worst of a storm in Bermuda, you have to get really unlucky because Bermuda is so small and the worst of the storm is small, but the storm is going to be much bigger in size, so it will be unusual for Bermuda not to feel it, but whether they get the absolute worst of it, at that time, forecast to be an 85 or 90 mile an hour category 1, so a different kind of storm by that time, and then moving on out to sea. So, Bob, this is going to be starting late tonight, before sunrise tomorrow, and then through the day tomorrow. This is going to be just horrendous in this whole corridor, maybe taking up half of Jamaica when you take it all into account. And then you have and that doesn't really count the issue of the water coming down the hill, because that's going to take time. That's not even going to necessarily happen all at the same time that the hurricane happens, because you rain up on the mountain and it has to make its way down, and then it fills the rivers and so forth. So this is going to be an extended, difficult, or horrendous period for parts of Jamaica. I think communities are going to be cut off. Some communities might be destroyed by this, either by the storm surge or by the wind. Bob?
Yeah, if you equate it to a tornado, it's like a 20 to 30 mile wide EF4 tornado initially coming in. You're talking about winds of 175 and they go out, 30 miles out. I know it goes down, but that's huge, Brian. It's going to be wind, it's going to be rain, it's going to be
remember, the tornado winds. Remember, tornado winds are gusts, or what we call gusts in hurricanes. Mm-hmm. So an EF5 tornado is 200 miles per hour, right? This is, if this comes in at 175 or 165, this is going to have gusts over 200 miles per hour. It's going to be, it's going to be an EF5 type tornado, but 20 or 30 miles across, and then an EF2 maybe 50 or 60 miles across. This is going to be just... think about it in those terms, and you go, "That's unbelievable." Yeah. But that's what's going to happen here.
That's why I thought about that when you're talking about the wind swath that you're going to see with the tree damage when it comes in. It's going to be incredible. The before and after, I'm afraid to even look at it. Brian Norcross, thank you very much. He's our Hurricane HQ. Nobody better in the business. Brian, thank you. All right, coming up, we're going to show you where it goes from here. Brian just pinpointed exactly what's going to happen for Jamaica. Gave you the timing on it. Show you the winds. It has some room to grow. It does. Hopefully it weakens before it comes in, but then it goes up towards Bermuda. So we've got that to worry about, and we've got East Coast rain that's been pounding in around Florida, the Carolinas, and Georgia. We've got the whole forecast for you guys coming up. We are Fox Weather, your Hurricane HQ, everybody, and we're going to be right back.
Got a great business idea? Give it a domain name from GoDaddy. Every order comes with our effortless AI experience, GoDaddy Aero, which will generate a logo, landing page, and more for you in just a few clicks. With our award-winning support, it couldn't be easier to start an online business with us, which is why we're trusted by more than 20 million customers. Unlock your online potential today with GoDaddy.
Welcome back, everybody. Look at this beast of a storm. It's Melissa. 175-mile-per-hour winds. Can you believe it? It's Category 5. Pressure continues to drop. 906, and the deeper the pressure, the more intense the storm is. And it's the lowest pressure we have seen this far in the season ever in the Atlantic Basin. So 906 going down in the record books for sure. Some shots out of Kingston, Jamaica. It looks like you're going to be on the bad side, but it is a compact little storm. Most likely not going to feel the effects of a Category 5 storm, but you're still going to get some massive amounts of rain and a lot of runoff coming down the mountains. Kingston is going to get blasted with some very heavy rain, flooding rain, and then you get across the harbor, you're definitely going to get that storm surge coming in also. All right, it's going to be essentially the middle and western part of Jamaica that gets hit the hardest with that swath of hurricane force winds, but the entire region is going to see a tremendous amount of rainfall, wind damage also. Here's the way it goes. Winds right now, 175, but it has moved up to the west-northwest now. Before, it was flatlined out to the westerly direction. Still only going 3 miles per hour, but as it wobbles, now it's starting to wobble up to the north. And that's exactly what was anticipated for the computer models. We think it's going to take that northerly turn, ultimately to the northeast, head right through Cuba, the Bahamas, ultimately towards Bermuda. But what do we know? Take it back from the 11 o'clock advisory. That was the last full advisory we had, and that was 11 o'clock this morning Eastern Time. 908 was the millibars. That was the pressure right here. That was extremely low. I mean, it's ear-poppingly low already. Now it's at 906, and as the pressure goes down, the winds go up. Check this, 165 at 11. Now at the 2 o'clock advisory, intermediate advisory, 175-mile-per-hour winds. But another thing of note, it's no longer moving due west. Like I said, it's starting to drift up to the west-northwest, but still 3 miles per hour. This thing is crawling along. You put 3.0 on that treadmill, and you can walk on that all day long, right? That's how slowly it's moving. But it's going to pick up its forward speed here within the next 12 to 24 hours. As it does so, it braces for southeastern Bahamas, clipping into the Turks and Caicos, and a lot of rain out there for Haiti as well. Here's where it goes, though. You can see by Wednesday morning now exiting away from Cuba. Then by Thursday evening and Friday, it's going to make a beeline towards Bermuda. So it's going to pick up its track, pick up its speed, and move up to the northeast and just blaze a trail right across the Atlantic over the next several days once it exits out of the Caribbean. But again, guys in Bermuda, you're right there in the middle part of that error cone. Never a good deal. It's the 4th or 5th time we talked about Bermuda being in an error cone for this year. We got the hurricane warnings. Those are the regions that are in pink and purple right there. Kingston, Guantanamo. You're in there also. Tropical storm warnings out there for Haiti. And we've got a brand new hurricane watch that's been placed out there. Turks and Caicos and the southeast part of the Bahamas. Look at this buzzsaw. That's exactly what it is. It's a compact storm, and you can see the way it goes on that satellite imagery, a pinpoint of an eye. That eye is measured at about 10 nautical miles, so about 10 to 11 miles in diameter. It's a thin one, and hurricane force winds go out 30 miles. So that's what we've got right here. Compact storm, but if you're in it, you're talking about western Jamaica, central Jamaica. It is going to be a monster. Rapid intensification. That's what this thing just went through, right? What does it mean? Well, it's gained a lot of wind speed in a short period of time. Right now, 175, still Category 5 storm. But earlier this weekend, it was not like that. You're talking getting into Saturday, 70-mile-per-hour winds. That was in the morning time. It was still a tropical storm on Saturday. If you remember, Sunday, it blew right up to a Category 3 at 115. Currently, it's sitting at 175. It continues to gain strength. Just take you through the last few days of the time frame. October 25th, yeah, that was Saturday. October 25th in the morning, it was 70 miles per hour. October 25th in the evening and night, 115, and on the way up from there, just a nice arc all the way up. So it continues to gain speed. That's the rapid intensification forecast that we had, and that's what happened. 35 miles per hour or more, it's got to gain in less than 24 hours. That's what it clearly had. So that is the definition right there, rapid intensification. It doubled that essentially, went from 70 to 140 in about a day or so. That is double the criteria you would need for RI. All right, what about the tracking of Melissa? We have it going on. One of the planes is now flying out, but this is the guy that measured, 240 in one of those wind bands, not at the surface, but at the flight level. That's what Brian Norcross had said. 240 at about, 10,000 feet. That's amazing. But it did correlate down to about 165. Now it's 175. Here's what we have, though, with that inner eye wall. And you can see it's spinning around. And Brian Norcross did note it was trying to develop a moat, a little bit of a drier air around the interior eye wall. And when that happens, that means it's starting to separate itself off just a little bit with another eye wall, hopefully building behind it. And I say hopefully because when that happens, and you start seeing the new eye wall take shape, then the complexity of the storm gets a little more ragged. It starts to lose its intensification, and the winds come down. Let's hope that happens before it smashes into Jamaica. But Jamaica, you're clearly, at least part of your island is going to be on that bad side, that northeast quadrant, where all the heaviest rain, the strongest wind is going to be located. This right here is an infrared look at the stadium effect of the storm itself. And you call it a stadium because that's exactly the way it's shaped. Picture this thing is about 10 and 11 miles wide, but it goes up, funnels up like this for about 10 miles up into the atmosphere. That's like if you're sitting on the 50-yard line and you see this huge stadium around you. You've got nothing but the sea right in front of you. You can see down to the water and blue sky overhead. Absolutely amazing. It's a dry core. It's a warm core. You got peak winds right there. They drop it. You can see we're going to continue as that eye wall takes shape. At least the center eye wall at this point has got the main deal with it. It doesn't have an outside eye wall yet. It still has just one, which means it has room to strengthen even more. But right now, 175-mile-per-hour winds, man, that is absolutely incredible. Where's it go after Jamaica? Goes towards Cuba. So let's get to that forecast real quickly because I don't want to leave you guys out. Either if you're on the eastern side of Cuba, Guantanamo especially, you're going to see some extremely heavy wind and rain, and I think that core of the storm gets over you by tomorrow afternoon. So once again, you have the hurricane warning for eastern part of Cuba as it slides right over Jamaica through the water again into Cuba itself. So you got the hurricane warnings that are areas that are shaded in purple. Tropical storm warnings again for Haiti. Don't want to leave you out because the rain is already out there. It's going to be heavy at times. But I'm going to pause this about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's when the eye wall is just offshore of Jamaica. It's going to slide right in that direction, follow that line as it moves up there. So going through the latter part of the morning to the afternoon and then coming in strong by early Wednesday morning. That's when it's making another landfall on the eastern side of Cuba somewhere just to the west of Guantanamo Bay, which would put you guys in a very bad situation. Puts you on the dirty side of the storm. The most amount of wind, rain, storm surge, the whole thing is going to be out there for the eastern tip of Cuba. And then it ejects. By Wednesday morning, it's picking up some speed, and it's moving up to the north and east, ultimately on the way into Bermuda, who's going to take another shot with possible hurricane force conditions. You're talking Category 1 or 2 with winds gusting 85, maybe gusting as high as 100 miles per hour for Bermuda by Thursday, if it holds together. Look at the rainfall totals. Again, not as much as Jamaica because it's going to be moving a little quicker, so it's not going to rain over the same spot for a longer period of time. But still, you're still looking at a foot to a foot and a half worth of rainfall sliding in there for the middle part of that region as it moves right into the Atlantic Ocean. And again, got the mountainous terrain, especially in the eastern side of Cuba. Those mountain ranges climb up to about 6,400 feet in elevation. You start getting that wind up there right up the tropics. It condenses out even more rain. That's where we're calling for about a foot to a foot and a half worth of rainfall right there. All right, we are not done with this storm. Something's got to steer this thing away from the United States. What it is a trough of low pressure. We've got some rain headed right through the deep southeast right now. It's been very heavy at times. It's going to push everything away from the United States, but there's more rain for the northeast as well. We'll show you where that's going to go. That's a track. That's the monster of a storm, a beast. We'll talk about where it's going to go, and we'll have the full updates, and another update comes up at the top, 5 o'clock. We get the full numbers again with a new track. We'll see if anything changes. We're your Hurricane HQ, everybody. We're going to return in just a little bit.
Weather is part of the American story. Under stormy skies, down snowbanks, even at Little League. From the first heat wave to the first frost, Fox Weather is there for you. When the storm breaks.
Just wreaking havoc here.
And after it passes.
There is a lot of work to get done, but there's hope to move forward.
We're with you every step of the way.
I'm going to go see if I can help this lady out.
For all seasons, for all America. Fox.
Welcome back, everybody. Look at the picture right here. This is our visible satellite imagery of Hurricane Melissa. You're looking right here at the strongest storm right there on the planet. It's Category 5, 175-mile-per-hour winds. It is wobbling right now, but gradually moving to the west-northwest at 3 miles per hour. So it has changed just a bit from moving due westerly to making aim towards that northerly direction, which is going to take it very close to Jamaica later on this evening, overnight tonight, and peeling out of here by tomorrow, and then slamming into Cuba. You see preparations already well underway as of Sunday, rightfully so. Category 5 storm. It looks like Kingston's not going to take the direct hit that we thought it could, but it's going to be off to the west a little bit farther. So we're still going to see massive problems out here for Jamaica. You're talking about power outages for a long period of time, especially right where it comes ashore. Even the National Hurricane Center calling for a structural failure with the buildings where it comes in. And you're talking winds of 175 with higher gusts. And then you draw out all the rain that's going to happen between 30 and 40 inches across the highest elevations of Jamaica on the eastern side. Flooding concerns are going to be epic. Plus, you've got the water coming in off the water. That's a storm surge. Could be as much as 10 feet or so right around Kingston Bay area. It's recipe for a big, big problem. We're talking disastrous for Jamaica. So here's what we're looking at. 175-mile-per-hour winds. The pressure's still coming down, 906. And anytime the pressure goes down, it means it's an intensifying storm system. And you can see it on that imagery. That is a perfectly well-uniformed storm. Now, it does have a little bit of dry air that Brian was noticing across the middle part of the core. Maybe it's getting a little bit of a moat, so the inner eye wall might be separating itself off with another one developing around it. That's almost speculation at this point. We need that to happen to get these winds to come down. They get a little eye wall replacement at this point. Not really a sign of that happening. 175-mile-per-hour winds is incredible. You're talking about the fourth strongest wind, tied for fourth strongest wind ever reported in the Atlantic Basin. And we're at the end of October. That's just a testament to how quiet it has been across the Caribbean. Nothing has stirred up the heat. Nothing has stirred up the water, so it's just sitting there like a big bathtub waiting to get tapped into with the warm water, and that's exactly what's happening right now. Look at the Kingston radar. You can see the picture, and Brian was trying to say it before. It looks like there's the green right there, some drier air. Now, if that were the case, where you're seeing that thing totally circulate right around that eye itself, that could be the sign of maybe another eye wall forming around it. And if that happens again, go through the eye wall replacement, which could be as fast as 6 hours or as slow as 24 hours for a complete eye wall replacement cycle. Either way, if we do start to see that happen, the wind field begins to expand, yes, but the winds begin to come down just a touch. But either way, I don't think it matters at this point. You're talking 175-mile-per-hour winds. Even if it comes down 10 miles per hour, it's still Category 5. Even Category 4 is going to do tremendous amounts of damage, mainly around Jamaica first. And then in the eastern part of Cuba, southeastern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, you guys are all in line to get smacked with not just wind, but a lot of rain. Where does it go from there? Look at all the computer models, drifting it up to the north and east, and then picking up forward speed, forward momentum. Coming in there once that trough of pressure really begins to take hold across that eastern seaboard and get those southwesterly winds out ahead of it. That's what's going to push it and steer it away from the United States. Now, we're still going to get some swells out of this by Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That's going to be from essentially the Outer Banks all the way up through New England, but nothing like what they're going to get across Jamaica, Cuba, the lower part of the Bahamas, right through Bermuda, too. Bermuda's going to get a big shot of wind and rain by Thursday into Friday. So, what do we have? These haven't changed. We're still looking at the hurricane warnings. Kingston, eastern part of Cuba. Hurricane watches are in orange. It's new today. Looking at tropical storm warnings also for all of Haiti. Haiti, you're going to get the tropical storm force winds in there, a lot of rain too. But we've already got tropical storm force winds into the Jamaica area. You're talking about Kingston with the rain lashing in. Here's the visible satellite imagery, and it's so interesting to look at, right? This is the last 3 hours. Look at the big old spin right there, and this thing is so uniform, so perfectly dimensional, and you've got all the quadrants right there. No disruptions at all. Look at the perfect circle outflow, especially on that western side. And it's also interesting to note, too, you've got high pressure directly overhead of it. Look at the winds. They all go counterclockwise. But then once you get across the highest elevation, the highest altitudes, you start getting that high pressure. And notice the clouds in that direction are going clockwise. So the winds go up like this, and then they start going clockwise with that high pressure aloft over the entire storm system itself. Look at this. I'm going to reposition it just a little bit for you so you can see the way it looks. Wow. All right, there it is. I'm going to give you the last frame as well because you notice it hasn't changed much at all. Here's the last frame, and you can see directly right down the gut from the top of the troposphere down to the sea. That darker shade right there in the middle is essentially cloud-free skies. It's got a couple of clouds in there. That's about it. But that is a dry, warm inner core at this point. And that is the telltale signs of a very strong complex. Get up to the north a little bit farther. You're still hanging into the percentages of seeing tropical storm force winds over the next 5 days. That's going to be the track of it. It goes right across the board. Now you're talking about Cuba, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. Have a shot at getting some tropical storm force winds also. But we're going to see the steering flow start to change around here in the next 24 hours. As that trough begins to drop down right through the southeast coast, winds will begin to pick up around from the south and west, essentially giving it the old boot away from the United States, and then, unfortunately, aiming right towards Bermuda for how many times in a row is this, where we're talking about hurricanes and Bermuda in the same sentence. That's what we've got. That's the way it goes with all the tracking. You can see the way it looks with these spaghetti models. Pretty much in uniform, right? Not much of a deviation, watching everything moving up here. Remember before last week, we were all worried, was it going to sit there? Is it going to stall across the Caribbean? Well, it slowed down. It didn't quite stall, but it slowed down. But unfortunately, as it did so, and it's moving away from the south and west, you're talking about extremely warm waters right there, and that heat content goes deep inside. So that's why we saw the rapid intensification, and the winds right now, hopefully they're topped out. I don't know how much more they can go up. 175-mile-per-hour sustained wind storm, but it only goes out 30 miles from the center, and the eye itself is about 11 miles in diameter. So yeah, it's a compact little thing right there, but you can see all the computer models all in agreement. Nobody bends it to the west. Nobody really bends it off to the east, but that puts Bermuda square in the sights also. So that's what we're watching for Thursday into Friday. So no watches, no warnings for Bermuda yet, but I imagine by this time tomorrow I start seeing tropical storm watches at the very least. All right, where do we go from here? Oh, we got this thing rolling through areas by Jamaica. Jamaica's going to take it first. As we're concerned with, we've got the brand new radar picture coming out of Jamaica also, and the heaviest rain by far is still just offshore, but we're getting some cycles coming in now, and you're getting tropical storm force gusts. So we've got the tropical storm conditions now edging into the lower part of Jamaica as forecast, and National Hurricane Center has been all over this for the last few days. Now the rain is in there. It's heavy times. Kingston right now. I was talking to our guys that are out there, Robert Ray and Jared Maloney. They were out there yesterday. Some flickers already yesterday afternoon with the power surges going on, and that was before we even got any of the very strong winds in there. So some flickering going on out there yesterday. It's only going to get worse. We're going to see a long period of time here, especially right where it makes its beeline inland, where we're not going to have any power for several days. And you're talking about at least the middle part, central Jamaica, and probably on the western side too. What about the warnings? Again, we've got that. Let me give you the timing. We've already got the tropical storm force gusts in there across all of Jamaica. The orange shaded areas, those are the hurricane force gusts. So not sustained yet, but you can see overnight tonight, it's 10 o'clock. Now you're starting seeing the beginning stages of those hurricane force gusts licking into the lower part of Jamaica. Watch it slide on in. The darker shade of red, these are the sustained hurricane force winds, and that's in there by early tomorrow morning. This is 8 o'clock. You're already in there. Again, we're looking at 30 miles out in either direction. That's where we had the hurricane force winds, so it's a relatively compact storm system, but look at the path. All the wind blowing up across these directions. As Brian Norcross was saying, notice the bays right here, they're all kind of scalloped. That means it can collect that water as it comes in, and it's not going to be able to drain out very easily at all. Then you add to the fact that you've got about 30 to 40 inches of rain coming in. That's a freshwater flooding, all trying to race out towards the sea. It's not going to be able to happen if it's pinned in there by that storm surge. It's going to be elevated for a couple of days until that wind finally subsides. I'll give you the timing on it. The rain is already here right now. You can see 5 o'clock. The rain continues to build in intensity overnight tonight through tomorrow. Okay, here you are tomorrow morning. That's when the core is right in on you. That is the eye wall. That is a part of the storm where you see the strongest winds. At this point, they're 175 miles sustained with higher gusts. Gusts, clearly, you get across the higher elevations. Some of these gusts could get up to 200 miles per hour. It's incredibly strong. I get it, but it's a short little time period as it moves through. But it's going to be a compact storm, and if you're in that region, like 20 to 30 miles wide, that could be like an EF4 or EF5 type of damage. You're talking about tornado damage in a 20 to 30 mile wide area as it breezes right through Jamaica. Just incredible. It's almost mind-boggling to think. I don't want to see the before and after stages of this thing. A little bit of a pickup right here. You can see the white shaded areas across the middle part, and the track of it's going to go right up here. So on the eastern side, you get the heaviest winds, and you get the most amount of rainfall, too. Look at the whites starting to pick up in intensity right there. That's 40 inches of more of rain. Freshwater flooding, that's with the rain coming down. Saltwater flooding, that's a storm surge. 10 to 13 foot is what we're watching for that surge to come in starting later on this evening through tomorrow. We're not done yet. We're covering this thing all the way through. We are Fox Weather Hurricane HQ. Coming up, we've got to look at where this thing is going to go towards Bermuda, the timing on that. And also, we've got some very heavy rain slated for the southeast and the east coast. We'll be detailing that coming up as well after the break. We are Fox Weather, your Hurricane HQ. This is a Category 5 storm. It's one for the record books. Keep it here. We'll have more.
It's time for Fox Weather Deals, where we bring you exclusive discounts on fantastic products just for you. To start shopping, scan the QR code on your screen or head over to foxweatherdeals.com. Joining me now is lifestyle expert Courtney Kaysen to introduce us to today's Fox Weather Deal. And Courtney, you're going to make us all look younger and better, right?
Truly overnight. Because have you ever walked outside when the weather's chilly and you're like, why does my skin look so terrible?
As a person with dry skin, yes.
Yes, it happens to the best of us. The cold air, the dry heat on the inside isn't doing us any favors. Wrinkles Schminkles is here to save the day. They have these medical-grade silicone patches, which are awesome. You can put them from your forehead, underneath your eyes, your neck, your décolleté. But basically, they're going to lock in hydration. They're going to help promote collagen production, smooth out those fine lines and wrinkles, and bring back your tone and texture. That's all without skincare on a clean, bare face overnight. So how about that? So you've got the microneedling patches. You can actually even put these on your forehead. They would be clear and not really anybody would notice. And then these are pretty cool because they are chocked full of hyaluronic acid, caffeine, and peptides. So if you've got like a big event or you're doing like a fun dance thing, use these in your target areas and it's almost like you've been working with an esthetician. Deal price starts at $21, saving you up to 30% off.
Can I see that?
Yeah, you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Courtney Kaysen, thank you. And to purchase what you saw today and so much more, scan the QR code on your screen or check out foxweatherdeals.com.
With summer coming up and everyone's wanting to wear brighter colors, there's the super fun vibe. They're a clear frame and they give colorful detail. I feel like these are perfect. These are gorgeous.
And they make prescription glasses fashionable. I feel like there isn't a style you could go wrong with.
These are going to be my go-to glasses. These are very retro. I don't feel like they're falling off my head. They fit perfectly.
If you're the girly that really loves glasses that you'll probably get lots of compliments on, you'll find that on this website, I promise you.
Back, everybody. We just got a 2 p.m. advisory, and it's troubling. Look at the winds right now. 175-mile-per-hour sustained wind storm. It's up from 165 3 hours ago. It's begun its northward track, though, just a little bit. It was westerly at 3. That was the forward motion. Now it's west-northwest at 3. And if you look at the satellite imagery over the last couple frames, you can see a little bit of a jog towards the north, and that's been expected for the last couple of hours now as that trough begins to dig in. It aims for a weakness in that high pressure, but what's really troubling is it has not slowed down. In fact, now the pressure's at 906 millibars, wind sustained at 175 miles per hour. That is a beast. Now, the hurricane force winds go out about 30 miles from the center. The diameter of the eye itself is about 10, 11 miles wide. But here are the changes from the last time. 2 p.m. advisory, 175-mile-per-hour winds. You can see where we were last time. We talked about the 8 a.m. That was 160. Pressure continues to steadily fall. Now we're at 906 millibars. It has moved up to the west-northwest now at 3. But 175-mile-per-hour winds, man, forget about it. This thing is screaming right now. That is tied for the 4th highest wind speed in the Atlantic Basin. The 4th highest wind speed ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin has just been tied by Hurricane Melissa. Where does it go from here? It's moving up to the west-northwest and aiming towards Jamaica for overnight tonight. Look at the radar picture, and you see the last few frames. If you look at the center of the eye, again, it really hasn't changed too much in direction. I'm putting it right there. There's the line. It has begun to move up to the west-northwest over the last couple of hours. I know we're expanding that viewfinder out just a little bit. But now you're already getting the tropical storm conditions in the lower part of Jamaica, including near Kingston. You can see those tropical rain bands as they continue to move inland. Those are the spiraling rain bands. The core of the storm itself is still offshore, and that's where it's going to remain until later on this evening. So that's the way it goes right here. Track hasn't changed much. We're not going to get another update on the track until 5 p.m. advisory, but this is what we are thinking. And right now, this might have to get put up just a little bit. The only thing that's going to slow this thing down will be an eye wall replacement at this time, and those are almost virtually impossible to predict when that's going to happen. Eye wall replacement, you get a nice eye that starts to form around the main one. As the main one begins to contract, the other one takes over. When that happens, it's kind of in a little bit of a change zone right there. Winds begin to come down. It's the only thing you can hope for right now before it makes a landfall in Jamaica is that it starts going through an eye wall replacement. Where does it go from here? It picks up its tracks, goes in towards Cuba. That will be by tomorrow evening. Wednesday, it affects the southeastern part of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. And then ultimately by Thursday evening and the overnight into Friday morning, it edges closer to Bermuda. Now, it's going to pick up its forward speed here over the next 24 hours. But right now, it is still just drifting to the west-northwest at 3 miles per hour. Now, some good news here. It needs to pick up its speed. It hasn't done it yet, but it has started to go to the west-northwest, which means it's going to be on that forecasted track to blow right into Jamaica over the night period tonight through tomorrow morning early. Look at this. You can see Bermuda. You're right there in the middle part of that error cone, and the consensus of all the models takes it very close to Bermuda itself, if not over it. But we still have the hurricane warnings. No changes right here. In fact, the hurricane warnings are still there. You're talking about Jamaica, eastern part of Cuba. You have all the hurricane watches in effect for the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos, southeast Bahamas down to the Turks and Caicos, and tropical storm warnings for Haiti, and that's for the entire country. You're going to get the tropical storm force winds in there also. All right, so what about the buzzing factor? Look at this. Over the last 6 hours, has it changed any at all? We're going to see. I'm going to flatline that line out for you. You can see now it's beginning to pick up and move up to the west-northwest. That's been anticipated. We've got high pressure that's up to the north. That's starting to weaken as a trough begins to move off the eastern seaboard. It aims for that weakness in the high pressure, and that's what's going to ultimately bend it up into Jamaica overnight tonight and then pull away. But look at that visible satellite imagery as I zoom into it. That is a healthy storm. That thing is 11 miles wide, about 11 miles high. That is a stadium effect right there. No disruptions, no shear, no dry air entrainment. That is as healthy of a storm as it's going to get. 175-mile-per-hour winds right now. All right, where's it headed? Headed toward Jamaica. We've got Robert Ray. He's stationed in Kingston, Jamaica right now. We've got tropical storm conditions already in play. These conditions are going to continue to deteriorate over the next few hours. Ultimately, hurricane force winds move in overnight tonight through tomorrow morning. Look at the white caps already out there. Here's what Robert Ray had to say.
Greetings from Kingston, Jamaica, capital city. We were just off the phone with our executive team in New York, and this is the hotel hallway. One of the rooms that we have here, we've been doing some broadcasting this morning from the balcony, and Pete, our photojournalist, is breaking down because we are about to make a move out of Kingston. Come out here if you can. Jared Maloney, meteorologist, field producer behind the lens. Thank you, Pete. We have a lot of gear here, and actually, can you show just all the gear? Pete is doing an incredible job. What it takes to put all this transmission together, and then all the food and supplies. We have a lot of packing up to do. As you see in the distance here, the mountains surrounding Kingston and some of the outer fringe bands beginning to come in. Here's the deal. We are making a move. Because of the track of Hurricane Melissa, Category 5 right now, it keeps running to the west, which is just remarkable. And we did not potentially expect it to go that far west. It will eventually cut to the north, make a landfall, and then head east across the island. But because of that, significant effects on the north shore of Jamaica are expected. Hurricane force winds and flooding. We have to find a location up there that is safe to broadcast from so that we can get these signals out tomorrow morning upon landfall. Landfall will be in the south, but it's going to cut up, and because of the size of it and the counter twist, all of those winds will impact those areas. And by the way, that's where all the resorts are. That's where Montego Bay Airport is. A big concern that airport may go offline, just like Kingston here. Flooding will happen here in Kingston, and you can see out here, Jared, head up right here and just give them a view, pan this area and look at some of the clouds there in the distance, and light breeze, light rain, nothing significant. Impacts will really begin overnight into tomorrow morning, and they will last for well over 24 hours. The actual landfall of this will cause catastrophic conditions, but then the backside, also huge problems. So we have a lot ahead of us. We're going to head up on an interstate here, and we need to scout out locations for safety, a fortified structure, a hotel that can take us in and allow us to potentially give live reports on Fox weather and all the Fox mediums over to all of tomorrow into Wednesday. And then what do we do? If indeed we can move down some of these roadways, which are going to be compromised because of flying debris and power lines and vegetation down and no power and maybe even no communications, we will likely be heading back down here to Kingston. We're
tracking the most powerful storm system on the planet right now. That's Melissa, 175-mile-per-hour winds. It's going to be steered away from the United States. We're not going to get a direct impact from this. We will get some storm surge, some waves, I should say, some swells. But we're not going to take a direct hit by this from the United States. Let me show you what it looks like, though, across the board. And I've got the wide picture of the Caribbean and the Gulf of America open for you right now. You can see the storms that are out there just swirling around across the middle part of the Caribbean. That right there is Melissa, 175-mile-per-hour winds, like I said. Strongest storm on the planet as we speak. But what do we have? We've got a trough of low pressure is going to develop across the East Coast. It's going to get reinforced with a few shots of energy. One that's right around the southeast now. Another one driving down from the Pacific Northwest over the next couple of days. But we've got plenty of rainfall to look at right here. In fact, we had severe thunderstorm warnings around Panama City Beach earlier today. Had a tornado warning out there also. Now the rain continues to spill in across the Big Bend area of Florida and then picks up around the low country of South Carolina into the upstate right through North Carolina and rotates around through Middle Tennessee and Kentucky. But we saw a lot of rain over the last few days. Check out this. Still, the flood watch is in effect for Florida. Why? Check how much rain fell right across the Orlando suburbs. You're talking about almost 20 inches of rainfall in one day. That was yesterday. 19.70 inches worth of rain just outside of Orlando when you get towards the beaches also. So here's our upper level low. You can see it spinning right there. That is has nothing to do with the tropics at all. It's going to make a beeline towards the coastline and begin to get wrapped up and absorbed with the low pressure regions already out there around the northeast. In fact, you can see it spinning right there. This guy goes over here, but here comes our new one dropping in from the northern branch. That northern storm is going to drop right through the upper part of the plain states. Notice the blue shade of colors. You're talking, that's over the colder areas and the vorticity and the low. That's going to set up shop right by Wednesday afternoon through Thursday. A little farther inland, though, but this is not going to create a low-pressure region offshore. Looks like it's more likely going to be right through the Tennessee Valley into the Ohio Valley. But as it does so, it's going to help get those winds out of the southwest and pushes Melissa out of here. But that means a heavy shot of rain for the East Coast, starting out to the Midwest. Tuesday and a Wednesday. That's Wednesday. That is Thursday. That is Friday. Another shot of very heavy rain. It's actually beneficial for the Northeast. We'll get to that coming up in a bit. But beach erosion is going to be a factor again for the Outer Banks all the way up through New England. We'll look at that in detail in just a bit. All right, we're not done with Melissa. We've got a hurricane expert, Brian Norcross, coming up in the next hour. 175-mile-per-hour winds. I wish I didn't have to report that, but the pressure continues to drop. It's intensifying right now. Where does it go from here? How strong can the dang thing get? We're your Fox Weather. We're your Hurricane HQ. We'll have all the answers coming up right after the break.
I'm Brian Norcross with the Hurricane HQ Minute on what the numbers in a storm surge forecast actually mean. More than 2 days before Hurricane Helene impacted Florida, the National Hurricane Center issued a detailed storm surge forecast. Around Tampa Bay, they called for the possibility of 5 to 8 feet of storm surge. But 5 to 8 feet above what? We all know that the water level in the Gulf goes up and down with the tides. Well, it's the high tide line that's important in understanding the storm surge forecast. 5 to 8 feet means up to 8 feet above the high tide line, somewhere where that 5 to 8 feet is forecast. Not everybody is going to get that much water, but that's what everybody has to be ready for. Fox Weather has you covered this hurricane season. Find out how to stream.
Every school is free of unhealthy, ultra-processed products. You know, those high in salt, fats, and sugar. If only that weren't a dream. The reality is that many children have an unhealthy diet at school, and 23% of them are overweight or obese. This can lead to hypertension, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Let's protect our children's right to health with a policy for schools that prevents unhealthy food marketing and ensures access to nutritious foods. The time is now. Let's implement the National School Nutrition Policy. A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.
Call now. I've been on my knees in prayer. And I know that there are Jamaicans here praying for us, Jamaicans overseas praying for us, but more than that, it would appear that the entire world is praying for Jamaica. I've gotten so many calls from leaders from all over the world, in particular CARICOM leaders, who are all praying for Jamaica.
Right now on Fox Weather, it is a terrifying scene. Major Hurricane Melissa is on track to deliver a catastrophic blow to the island nation of Jamaica. The intensity of this storm has entered historic territory. The monster Category 5 hurricane could bring feet of rain tonight before it makes its expected landfall tomorrow morning. Melissa exploded in strength over the weekend, growing from a tropical storm on Saturday to now the third Category 5 of the season. It's only the second season on record with 3 Category 5s, now joining the notorious 2005 season. The storm is so intense, hurricane hunters were forced to abort a mission due to extreme turbulence. Hand down on the ground, evacuations have been ordered as an intense life. 13 feet is possible at the coast, and landslides inland could cut off communities for days or even weeks. The National Hurricane Center now urging people to not leave their safe shelter until the storm has passed. We've got crews on the ground in Jamaica, and Fox Weather hurricane specialist Brian Norcross standing by as Melissa closes in. It's all right now on Fox Weather Now. Hey, good Monday afternoon, everybody. Thank you, as always, for being here with us on Fox Weather. Right now, 3 o'clock on the East Coast, noon out west. I'm Ian Oliver, and this is Fox Weather Now. This is Category 5 Hurricane Melissa, still just south of Jamaica, starting to gain a touch of latitude, making that turn to the north, but slowly. You look at the latest specs on this, the 2 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, winds at 175 miles.
Yeah, you know, if you have to compare it to something, you compare it to Maria, which hit as a Category 4 and, of course, just devastated, especially the higher elevations of Puerto Rico. The San Juan was spared because it was on the other side of the mountain, essentially. Kingston is going to be spared because it looks like the worst of this is going to go to the west part of the island. I say spared. They're still going to get the runoff from the rain, and exactly how severe that's going to be is an open question. It could be just tremendous, the amount of water coming through Kingston trying to get down to the Caribbean Sea. So, yes, there is so many potentially catastrophic aspects to what's going to happen, and it's going to happen starting overnight tonight, then really peaking in the morning and then through the day tomorrow. You mentioned that 906 millibar pressure. Yes, that's down there below Maria at its maximum. Remember, its maximum was not at Puerto Rico. Its maximum was near Dominica, and 175 mile-an-hour winds, obviously up there with the strongest hurricanes we've recorded, that have been recorded and have been measured. All right, let's take a look at it close up here. This just unbelievable, just incredible circular storm. So what this tells you is that the storm is strong enough that it's pushing any negative influences in the atmosphere away. That's why you don't have any flattened sides. You don't have anything like that. The fact that we're seeing now in these latest pictures a little bit of something going on here is that an eyewall replacement cycle trying to get going, which would weaken the top winds, but would expand the extent of the strong winds out. So not necessarily a net good thing, because it would cause more people to be in the corridor of strong winds, but the peak winds would not be quite so strong. But whether it's a strong Cat 4 or it's a amazing, not even bottom level Cat 5, up in the Cat 5 middle level range, about as strong as it can get, still it's just a devastating kind of scenario. All right, so let's look at it on the radar here and see if we can pick out anything here going on. There's that, you can kind of make out where that green is there, that's kind of wrapping around. So that, maybe that's a moat, maybe that's just a band. A moat is where you have an area of kind of drier air, sinking air, and then it tries to form around it. So we'll see if that's going to take place. It's going to run out of time to finish that by the time it goes from here on up into here tomorrow. It usually takes 24 to 48 hours for that to complete the whole cycle of going from super strong to weaker and bigger to strong again, but bigger. That's the whole eye wall replacement cycle. All right, so here's where it is right now, and here's where the National Hurricane Center is analyzing winds of at least 40 miles per hour out to here. Now, not everywhere, because you have all these mountains here, and some areas are blocked from it, so they don't get the strong winds from certain directions. When the wind, for instance, if the wind is coming like this into Kingston, there are mountains to the east, but if the wind comes from the south, there's nothing to stop the winds there. So as the storm moves north, those winds will switch, come from the south in Kingston, and that's when it'll get the peak winds. That'll be later on tonight and in the morning. All right, so let's look at the forecast. So this is the forecast as of the 11 a.m. advisory. Back then, the storm was weaker. It was only 160 miles or 165 miles per hour. So the thinking is it would, they were making an estimate of a level wind speed. So in any case, they have it at Category 5 strength here this evening. And so here, this red area, that's the hurricane force winds estimate in that area, and then the core of it is smaller than that. So this is where the super strong winds are. These are hurricane force gusts here. So we'll see how this plays out. Watch we go forward in time here and compare it to these various locations on Jamaica. All right, so there's where it is just before landfall. So this is 8 a.m. Looks like landfall maybe 9 a.m. Eastern. That would be 8 a.m. local time in Jamaica. They're 1 hour behind Eastern time. The estimate is 160 mile an hour Category 5. As it's getting picked up and moved forward, the upper level winds become a little more hostile to the environment, possibly, but all these plus or minus 5 or 10 miles per hour, we really don't have an ability to forecast that. So if you're looking at sort of an average situation, that usually it can't maintain itself at that super strong speed for a long time. So a couple of places to note. Black River, first of all, is a kind of a port town there. It's a significant town right on the Gulf. It's on a bay there. And if you notice, the coast here has all these scallops in it. And the thing is that all these bays catch the water and they enhance the storm surge. So they're very dangerous places to be. So we were afraid in harbor. They're still going to get storm surge. It just won't be the core of it, because here's where the strongest winds are going to blow ashore. Now, if it deviates a little to the left, Black River is going to be right in. It's going to be very, very close for Black River. Just down the coast from Black River right there is a place called Treasure Beach. It's a resort area. Boy, it's going to be super close there, whether they're just going to get blasted with storm surge to 10, 12, 13 feet above the normal high tide, which would just devastate a good part of the coastal areas there, or are they going to be just left of it? I mean, right now they're right in the core of this hurricane. Mandeville here is a city at 2,000 feet up in the mountains. This is a very mountainous island, but the winds increase with height. So if you have 160 mile an hour winds at the ground, you can have over 200 mile an hour winds with height, especially funneled in canyons and so forth. So scary time for Mandeville as well. And then, and look over here to Kingston in the tropical storm force winds. So winds gusting to maybe 60 or 70 miles per hour in Kingston, but pushing the water toward the coast. Notice Montego Bay is in the hurricane force gusts coming this way from the north. They won't be as strong as the ones coming from the south, but still significant storm in Ocho Rios is going to be on the bad side of this hurricane, looks like, as it moves to the north. There you see it as it's exiting. The center is exiting about 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. local time tomorrow. Ocho Rios will be right in it at that time. Montego Bay getting strong winds coming this way, piling water into the bay there, again enhancing storm surge. They may get some storm surge there, not like on the south coast, but they may get some higher water levels. And Kingston, as it's moving over, that's the closest they come to the center because it's not going due north. It's going east and north. So this is going to be the gustiest time in the afternoon, highest storm surge in the afternoon. And the let's check again. I think the high tide is in the middle of the afternoon in Kingston. So this could be the time when it's the worst. But remember, and we're going to talk about the rain in a second, so let me just hold off on that. And then it moves north. I estimate as a Category 3 as it heads on north to Cuba and the Bahamas. High confidence in this forecast. Everybody pretty much agrees. The NHC forecast has edged a little bit to the east of the other models, but still right in that area. That's why I say for Blue River, right in there, boy, this is just so close to whether they're going to, just miss the worst surge or get the worst surge there into that bay. But high confidence that the worst of this is not coming into Kingston. That's what the Google model says in terms of the extent of the possible tracks, but these are very, very, very low odds here and here. The core of it is definitely right there. All right, so let's talk about the storm surge for a moment. Here you can see how the winds come at landfall. So here's the storm over here making landfall. Here come the winds around. So in all these bays here, this is where they up to 13 feet above normal high tide. Well, in Kingston, here the water's being pushed into the bay, but it's from weaker winds. But it still doesn't let the tide flow out. And remember, if it rains up on these mountains, which we'll talk about in a second, that's trying to come down. So you have the storm surge pushing in and the rain trying to get out, and those two things don't work together. This is May Pen is a significant city here, along with Mandeville, and they're going to be in the strong winds again. They have some elevation. It's not at the coast. It's inland, but that may be another city threatened significantly by the wind in this, and, of course, the rain. So here's the forecast for the rain. So here's where the storm is forecast to go track, something up in there like that. I think it's actually a little bit more over here. And so on the right side, it's driving tropical moisture into those mountains. So Mandeville is not only going to have to deal with the wind, but whatever the runoff is. Remember, the runoff doesn't happen right away. So this disaster, this catastrophe, will extend over some days while the water is coming down. And look at this, all these purples. These are up in the feet of rain here. So. And outside of Kingston, there's a tall mountain right there. You can really see it when we look at it like this. See the tall mountain there? Look at Mandeville kind of up in the mountains. All water that hits those mountains all has to come down. Same thing on the north side here. So when the wind comes around like this, the rain forms on the other side of the mountain and still has to come downhill. And so there's the cone moving north. Cuba, eastern Cuba, is going to have a hard hit. And that's kind of mountainous there. And then the central and southern Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Full preps required for a hurricane coming there on Wednesday. And then Bermuda, I'm going to watch for Bermuda right in the middle of the cone once again this year. They're going to feel it because the storm is going to get bigger as it goes north. They'll feel it. Whether they get the core of it, it's just way too soon to tell because the core is small relative to the Atlantic Ocean and the island is small. So you have to get kind of unlucky to get the worst of it there in Bermuda, but somehow they seem to be attracting hurricanes this year. Ian?
Brian, I was just looking at the high tide cycle for tomorrow. Is just as you suspected, or just about 3:30. The tidal range there, though, in Kingston, it's a little bit less than a foot. I don't want to say that that's negligible, but when you're talking about numbers like this, up to 13 feet, I guess you don't get the benefit of a big tidal cycle if that was happening at low tide.
Right, that's exactly right. And Kingston isn't going to get that maximum tide. That maximum tide is going to be to the west. That point that sticks out at the bottom of Jamaica there, called Portland Point, that's I think the tide is going to be to the west of there, where the worst storm surge is going to be. So that this let me see if I can work my machine here, this point right here.
Yeah.
So in this area here, in those bays there. Now, a lot of that is a kind of a nature coast. And then you get over to, as I was talking about, Treasure Beach and Black River, but that's closer to the, right on the line, right on the track, and it's just too close to call for whether they're going to get the maximum surge there or they're just going to be out of it. But it's, boy, is it going to be close.
Yeah, there's so many different aspects of this storm, and they're all life-threatening. They're all potentially catastrophic. So very close attention to this. Brian, we're going to be checking back in with you. That's Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Brian Norcross. Thank you. And after Melissa slams into Jamaica tomorrow, it has its sights set on Cuba. A second landfall expected later in the day. Still expecting this to be a very powerful hurricane at that point. We'll time it all out. We'll bring you the latest when Fox Weather Now comes right back.
Are you looking for the ideal place to shop, where you can find everything you need for every member of the family? Then you need to check out PriceSmart. It's a shopping club full of imported products, savings, and benefits. I always find what I need here, even for my dog, who loves this super premium food from Member Selection, PriceSmart's private label brand. It has 11 superfoods, probiotics, is corn-free, and has healthy fats like omega-3 and 6. They also offer options for different stages, sizes, and cats. There's so much to take advantage of. Come discover everything they have for you firsthand.
That you are free from that, think again, because the heavy rains will also affect you. The strong winds reaching tropical storm force could still continue to affect you as we go through the day on Tuesday. That's all the way through tomorrow. The exit of this system is likely to take place in the evening hours on Tuesday as well, so it's not expected to remain over the island until Wednesday, because there will be slight increase in the wind speed, in the direction of, in speed of movement of the system. Right now, it's still moving at only about 6 or 7 kilometers per hour. But it
Hey you, if you call yourself a YouTuber, stay. If not, skip this. Growing in your niche, that's like doing push-ups in a blackout. No one sees the grind. YouTube algorithm is like that moody ex. Unpredictable and cold. And no matter how sweet you are, it still goes to you.
Of Jamaica. And we're joined now by our own resident meteorologist, Romaine Robinson. Romaine, what's the latest? And if you could just show us there on the map behind you.
Sure. We do have Melissa in our image. We can see a very clearly defined eye in the center of the system. Now, there is very slow movement towards the west, and we are still expecting it to make a turn towards the west-northwest. And we're still expecting it to make a turn towards the northwest and then towards the north between this evening, tonight, and early tomorrow morning. So this track is going to be taking the system closer to the western portion of the island of Jamaica, closer to the west coast. Currently, based on the measurements, it's about 180 kilometers south of Treasure Beach in St. Elizabeth.
But Romaine, I've seen in some WhatsApp groups people saying with that movement, oh, it looks like Kingston isn't going to get much. Dispel that notion for us,
No,
please.
that's not at all the case. We do expect the entire southern portion of the island to be affected by strong winds and rain over the next 24 to about 36 hours as the system makes its way. There are sections of the island which may not be experiencing the devastating Category 5 winds, but there is the likelihood that most places are in the influence of about Category 3 winds right across the island for both north and south coast over the next period.
Which is devastating because yes, Hurricane Gilbert was a Category 3.
Right,
yes,
that did make landfall. And we are expecting definite landfall based on the projections from the Hurricane Center. So persons should be really concerned about the next couple of days.
So tell me, is this mirroring Beryl's path in any way? Is it similar?
Not exactly. Beryl was slightly closer to the island when it was moving in this particular area, and it moved further towards the west, not over the island. Beryl didn't make landfall. However, this system is expected to make landfall over the southwestern portion of the island.
And we've seen a slow deterioration of conditions. We've seen rough seas from Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth. We've seen some flooding in St. Thomas. We've seen landslides in Portland as well.
Yes.
Talk to us over the next couple of hours leading into tonight.
Well, we have some weather stations that are still functioning. A lot of them are solar based, so we haven't had much sunshine, so they've stopped reporting. But we did see tropical storm force winds across several sections of the corporate area and also across sections of St. Thomas earlier this morning and even last night. We also have accumulated so far between 50 to about 70 millimeters of rainfall if you extend from the southern portion of Clarendon all the way through to about St. Thomas. So we still are accumulating rainfall from the system, and it's quite possible that we get up to quite possibly upwards of 500 millimeters before the system exits the north coast.
And 500 millimeters, that's about 20 inches?
Yes, that has really never been heard of in that short space of time.
That's a lot of water.
Right.
And the Earth's already saturated. So.
Right, we have been having rainfall basically every day for the past week or so.
Talk to us now, when I look at the map, and I think you've said this to me in conversations in the last few days, that we get most of the rainfall or activities to the east of the storm.
Yes, that's the typical manner in which tropical storms and hurricanes behave. You tend to have the strongest winds and the heaviest rain in the northeastern quadrant of the system. We call them quadrants because we divide the system into four.
So that's where the very dark area there.
Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm.
So that area, and it is expected to be impacting most of the St. Elizabeth and Trelawney parishes over the next couple of days. So persons across those two parishes would be seeing the eye and the eye wall.
Okay, my producers are going to switch to the zoomer map, which that gives you, I think, a slightly clearer picture of its actual movement.
Yes, we can see that the turn is expected to begin between tonight and tomorrow morning very early, and it's likely to be turning or keeping that northward motion with that same very slow forward speed of about 6 to 7 kilometers per hour, then making landfall across the southern portion of St. Elizabeth in the very early morning tomorrow.
You're talking like 1, 2 a.m.
Right.
So it's going to be impacting us mainly the night.
Yes. The influence should begin by that, but we're expecting the eye to make landfall by about 12 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. So there is also the likelihood that it slows down a little bit before it moves on.
And there is a lot, basically what comes before the eye happens immediately after as well.
Exactly.
Getting the other side of it.
Exactly. So conditions will begin to be felt across the area from as early as tonight going into tomorrow before the landfall of the eye in the afternoon tomorrow.
So this sounds like it's going to be sitting there for about, 12 hours, maybe 14 hours?
Based on the passage, yes. It could be as much as between 14 and getting up to about 18 hours. Very slow movement. It's going to be interacting with the land, so it's likely to be slowing down somewhat. The only recompense we have is that it's likely to be weakening before it exits somewhere along the Trelawney coast. It's likely to be getting down to about a category 4, which isn't much weakening, but still some weakening nonetheless.
We've been told in the past that mountains break them up and weaken them. But so just move down from 5 to 1? From 5 to 4, sorry.
Yeah, the thing about this, about the path also, is that this is relatively flat in compared to the eastern portion of the island. I think the highest mountain ranges you have in this general area between like 600 going up to about 700 meters, whereas the Blue Mountains is 2,200, right?
I see.
So it's not going to be a very significant weak passage.
Now it's making that turn. It just seems like a radical turn because it's moving west, kind of northwest there.
Right.
Is there anything that could, for example, overnight just let it continue? Yes.
Not based on the model projections and not based on the information that we have been getting out of the Hurricane Center. We also have lots of weather systems further west that are preventing the movement into the Western Caribbean as well, and we also have strong systems in the central and eastern portions of the basin that are going to be somewhat squeezing it. So this is likely the path of least resistance for the system across the next few days.
All right, finally, what can we expect in the next, 6 to 9 hours?
More of those tropical storm force winds continue to affect sections of the east. Tonight they should be increasing to hurricane force, and then the category 5 winds are expected tonight across sections of the southwest and across sections of northwestern parishes as well.
All right, Romain, thank you very much. Very sobering picture there. Works Minister Robert Morgan says last-minute efforts were made to clean silt and other debris from the Sandy Gully in St. Andrew to mitigate against flooding expected from Hurricane Melissa. He was speaking at the ODPEM press briefing earlier today.
We've done quite a bit of work across the island in terms of drain work mitigation, and several critical drains across the island have been impacted, have been targeted, and we will continue as long as it's safe to do so. So you would have seen even yesterday we had a front-end loader in the Sandy Gully trying to continue to create a pathway for the water to move to the sea. On Thursday we also started work on the channel to the sea in the Sandy Gully, and this section is critical, and I want to explain a little bit as to what we have done at the Sandy Gully. We were in the process of planning a massive rehabilitation of the gully, also a massive desilting program for early next year, but the hurricane did not acquiesce to our timing, and as such we had to move very quickly to the urgent work. The most important thing that we are trying to do is, one, protect lives and property of people who live at the end of the gully past the bridge near Seaview Gardens, and two, the bridge that is on Storm Road, which is a very critical bridge. It connects to the ports, as I said before, it connects to the most important health facility, KPH, also Bustamante Children's Hospital if you're traveling from that side. It's very important that we not allow that bridge to be if the hurricane does in the area. We've removed 500 loads of silt from under the bridge or in the vicinity of the bridge over the last 5 days. Some persons are saying, well, we should clean all the way to the sea. That is 1.5 kilometers from the bridge to the sea, and it's 37 meters wide. If that section that we cleaned was 500 truckloads of silt, think about how many trucks and excavators and backhoes and front-end loaders would be required to remove 1.5 kilometers of silt with a width of 37 meters, a couple thousand trucks. So we have done as much as the engineers have said we can do at this time to create a pathway under the bridge so that water can flow.
Okay, thank you very much. That clip from Robert Morgan. 500 loads of debris removed from the Sandy Gully. And of course, if anybody knows that when you're coming into Kingston to the east of that bridge, the part of the gully that leads into the sea, it's a whole lot. In fact, it looks almost like a forest in parts of it. We're going to go now to speak about health matters, because the hospitals are taking only emergency cases. All elective cases have been postponed, but we will come right back after this break with a conversation with the Minister of Health.
Chat! The RGA Gleaner Netballers present Big Money Bingo with Winston Casanova at the Gleaner Company, 7 North Street, Saturday, November 1 from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Admission $2,000. No more money. Big Money Bingo, $150,000 to be won. $150,000. Big Money Bingo all night with DJ Xavier.
Sponsored by Karen Joyce Pharmacy, Bright Diamond Funeral Services and Supplies, Vikings Furniture Depot,
Harry's Funeral Home, 876 Nurses, Soccer Express Prints and Manufacturing, Tranquility Funeral Home,
Kendall, Camps Manufacturing, Naraj Confectionery, Sunshine Snacks, Slangy J.A.,
Rapid Aqua Air, Couriers, and Destiny Furniture and Appliances.
BM Auto Sales Limited,
AE Auto Sales Limited,
Buddy's Funeral Services. Get your pre-sold tickets now for only $2,000 at RGR.
And some of the outer fringe bands beginning to come in. Here's the deal. We are making a move. Because of the track of Hurricane Melissa, Category 5 right now, it keeps running to the west, which is just remarkable. And we did not potentially expect it to go that far west. It will eventually cut to the north, make a landfall, and then head east across the island. But because of that, significant effects on the north shore of Jamaica are expected. Hurricane force winds and flooding. We have to find a location up there that is safe to broadcast from so that we can get these signals out tomorrow morning upon landfall. Landfall will be in the south, but it's going to cut up, and because of the size of it and the counter twist, all of those winds will impact those areas. And by the way, that's where all the resorts are. That's where Montego Bay Airport is. A big concern that airport may go offline, just like Kingston here. Flooding will happen here in Kingston. And you can see out here, Jared, head up right here and just give them a view. Pan this area and look at some of the clouds there in the distance. And light breeze, light rain. Nothing significant. Impacts will really begin overnight into tomorrow morning, and they will last for well over 24 hours. The actual landfall of this will cause catastrophic conditions, but then the backside, also huge problems. So we have a lot ahead of us. We're going to head up on an interstate here, and we need to scout out locations for safety, a fortified structure, a hotel that can take us in and allow us to potentially give live reports on Fox weather and all the Fox mediums over to all of tomorrow into Wednesday. And then what do we do? If indeed we can move down some of these roadways, which are going to be compromised because of flying debris and power lines and vegetation down and no power and maybe even no communications. We will likely be heading back down here to Kingston. We'll try to cover here, we'll try to cover the north, and if we can make it to the southern shores eventually where the landfall is going to occur, we will. But some of those areas will be in such bad condition that I'm not sure that people will be able to get in and out of there for days. In the meantime, I'm going to head back into the room as we are packing up all of this gear right now. A lot of our food is in the vehicles already, and we've got a lot of work to do here in about the next coming hours. About a 3-hour drive up to the north. Godspeed, everyone here in Jamaica, including this team. Robert Ray, Pete, Jared, Fox Weather.
This is where the destruction is going to be, and take this circle right there and then translate that across the island. That's where the real corridor is going to be, that they're not going to be able to build anything really, and the trees are not going to stand, and it'll be a swath across Jamaica that I imagine we'll be able to see from the satellite, where the trees have been knocked down and the damage is just massive in that swath, not to mention what goes on here on the southern coast, and not to mention the flooding from the tremendous rain coming down from the mountains.
Yeah, that's the thoughts from Fox Weather hurricane specialist Brian Norcross, breaking down the impacts. All of them are life-threatening. Surge, rain, wind. We're concerned about landslides, flash flooding, of course, the destructive winds. That's a live picture from Kingston, where we've seen, and it's a good thing because tropical storm conditions have started. Most folks aren't out and about. They shouldn't be. The NHC urging folks to get to your safe shelter and stay there for the duration of the storm, with worsening impacts over the next several hours, overnight, a landfall sometime tomorrow morning, and still very dangerous conditions throughout the day tomorrow. You also heard from Robert, Jared, and the team. They're doing their absolute best to get us the live pictures, tell these important stories from Jamaica. But this is an incredibly challenging scenario, both logistically and also just figuring out how to do all this safely because of how top end all of those hazards are. So again, here's where we're at. We'll be looking toward the 5 p.m. update. An hour and some change out from right now, the 5 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. Winds are up at about 175 miles per hour. There's some possibility that this is in the very early stages of an ERC, an eyewall replacement cycle, which would briefly weaken the storm. The important takeaway there is that the top end winds come down some, but the overall size of the wind field expands, and we know how much of the island is already going to be seeing some of the most brutal aspects of Melissa. It's hard to see that as a net benefit. So just the context with that part of the story. This is the storm history. Going back to a Sunday 2 a.m., this was at 1:20. This has undergone, technically speaking, multiple periods of rapid intensification and what can be considered extreme rapid intensification. This was 70 miles per hour for its maximum sustained winds, an increase in less than 24 hours. I believe it was about 18 hours. So just a storm that once it got its bones, its structure, it started to take advantage of that incredibly warm water below it, the amount of ocean heat content. We got the hurricane warnings up for Jamaica, eastern parts of Cuba, hurricane watches for the Bahamas, Turks, and then we'll see beyond that as this, toward the end of the week, makes a close approach, or even a possible landfall in Bermuda at this point. Bermuda can't catch a break as they've been dealing with storms left and right over the last several weeks. You look at the enhanced satellite here, it has all the hallmarks of storms we rarely see. I guess we've had 3 this season up to Category 5, but this is only the second season on record that has featured 3 Category 5 storms, and it joins what could be considered either the most or tied for the most notorious season on record going back to 2005. That's the inner core. Top-down look from space from our GO satellite, staring into the core of this monster. Something to point out, the hurricane force winds, I don't want to say only, they only extend out 30 miles from that center of circulation. So that inner core, which is incredibly intense, isn't that large in size, but if it goes through some of the processes that we were talking about, that wind field does grow a bit larger. So where exactly this moves ashore, we talked about how why these trends further west were such a good thing for Kingston. Still these major impacts, but when you consider the difference being in that 30 miles or being just outside it, it's a huge, huge deal. We'll get back to Melissa in a moment. We do want to take a look back toward the lower 48, where we've had some stronger storms, big coverage of downpours that have moved their way across the southeast. That's Isle of Palms there in South Carolina. A northeast wind, 17 miles per hour, a pretty soggy picture. We've got all of those concerns. This is moving toward the East Coast, and as it does so, it kind of sets the stage. It gets soggy in a bunch of places that have some more rain moving that way as we move forward through the middle of the week and even beyond. So, yeah, that's a rough-looking day. 63 degrees right now with that heavy rain continuing to come on down. That coverage of rain, most of the Carolinas, we've also got a band of storms that's offshore just west of Florida's Gulf Coast. There's actually a special marine warning up for this line of thunderstorms for some wind gusts that could exceed 40 miles per hour. So we'll watch those. Those are going to be rolling on shore. Tampa Bay, Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, even Point South. Going to have to watch those storms for places farther off to the south, Manatee, Sarasota, and even down into southwest Florida. But look at this coverage. We just saw what it looks like in coastal South Carolina, up into the Appalachians, that swirl of low pressure. The flash flood threat, as we move forward through the next several hours, is going to be there, at least in an isolated sense. That's the scene from Atlanta, 52 degrees, northeast wind right now, 12 miles per hour. It just looks dreary, and our Fox weather model shows you what to expect as we move forward through the next several hours. Yeah, that coverage of rain, it'll be around. First thing tomorrow morning, you're waking up across the Carolinas, still dealing with that, so keep that in your plans for first thing on Tuesday. And for the second go-around, as we head on into the evening rush, at least coastal areas, North Carolina up into Virginia, spreading up into the Delmarva, you got some wet weather in the forecast. Hurricane Melissa, it's moving northwest, turning to the north. It's got its eyes set on Jamaica. Catastrophic impacts looming for the island. Destructive storm surge, powerful winds, and life-threatening flash flooding all on the table. More on Melissa when Fox Weather Now comes right back.
Live the island dream. It's your chance to be one of over 100 winners in the Buster, Turbo and Viva Island Dream promotion. Win your share of more than 1.2 million in cash and prizes, plus 2 all-inclusive weekend staycations for 2. That's not all. Score coolers packed with Buster, Turbo and Viva. Just buy any can or bottle of Turbo, Buster or Viva. Find the code starting with BB, then visit at Buster Soft Drink Official or Turbo Energy on IG or Facebook for details. Authorized under Section 58 of the Betting Gaming Lotteries Act. Conditions apply.
Hey, welcome back to Fox Weather Now. Monster Category 5 Hurricane Melissa threatening Jamaica with catastrophic flooding. The winds, the surge, everything about this storm is in that upper echelon for tropical threats. And you're seeing the scene here, the maximum winds at 175 miles per hour. Where this moves in the short term is incredibly impactful. It'll dictate what portions of Jamaica see the worst of this, which we're expecting to be the western half of the island. Those hurricane-force winds only extend out about 30 miles, but they get up to 175 miles per hour. That's at the surface, and we have to talk about what's going on in some of the higher terrain, where the National Hurricane Center has said you get up into the higher peaks, you can add 20 to 30% to some of those wind speeds. So we're talking about gusts that could approach or exceed 200 miles per hour up into the high terrain. So that is the wind field as it exists right now. Live radar from Jamaica, you can see that intense inner core in through here, right there in that eye wall. That's where we have the potential for some of those winds up around 175 miles per hour. You could also see it is taking on a bit of a situation or a look with concentric rings, indicating that there is likely an eye wall replacement cycle that is just getting going, which could bring down those top-end winds but expand the overall wind field, which is a big important aspect, not just for Jamaica, but what happens beyond Jamaica into eastern parts of Cuba, Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, and potentially Bermuda. So we've got much to watch in the short term. We'll keep you updated next hour. We've got that 5 p.m. update coming in from the NHC. Melissa's landfall, it's getting closer and closer. And Jamaica is on high alert in the final hours before this major hurricane is set to slam the island. Thousands there are bracing for the worst of the impacts, the island population of about 3 million people. Gabriela Barrera is visiting Jamaica on what was supposed to be a relaxing vacation, and now a Category 5 hurricane keeping her from leaving the island. Gabriela, thanks for being here with us on Fox Weather. Are you in a safe place? What has this last day been like as you've been trying to make a plan and make preparations?
Yes, we are on a sort of high area, sort of like a hill. So we think we're not going to be getting flooding. But it's been a lot, honestly, very stressful, very overwhelming. I think the waiting is probably like a very difficult thing. Like you keep on seeing changes or like other news coming out, and obviously other areas of the country are being affected already for 2 days, but it's been 2 days. So seeing those images and sort of like what's happening in other areas does make you very much scared. But yeah, we've been preparing. Everybody here has been absolutely incredible of sort of helping us, guiding us through obviously what it is right now and sort of navigating the best way that we can to be able to be fully prepared as much as we can.
Yeah, Gabriela, I wanted to ask you more about that. What has the overall scene, the feeling been like amongst the whole community, everyone that you're interacting with? Have you been through a hurricane before? Because it must be another thing not to be in your home country.
Yeah, I have gone through hurricanes before, obviously not of this magnitude. I'm originally from Belize, so we do get sort of hurricanes there. I have lived 2 before. They are being Category 1. It's not as intense as this one is and is going to be. But yes, the community here is honestly, everybody's extremely welcoming and friendly and sort of trying to help you out, especially because they know that you don't know or where to get everything or what all we should be preparing for. So we have had a very strong sort of community around us that has helped us through it.
Yeah, it is such a wonderful place and a spot that has a history dealing with tropical systems. But we're expecting this to be the worst on record, and that may cause some of these places to be cut off for days, even weeks. We know the infrastructure, the roads, the ports, the airports. Do you have arrangements to stay on the island for a longer period of time? I know that probably wasn't in your initial plans.
Yeah, so obviously we don't know. I think the most important thing is right now to just stay safe. and just pass through. And I think once sort of tonight, tomorrow, which is, I think the worst is tomorrow, passes, then we'll be able to sort of know what's next, you know, and sort of make a call then. But I don't think we have thought so far away us yet. Yeah.
Yeah, Gabriella, you guys are doing all the right things, right? Listening to the local officials, getting ready. Yes. We know this is going to be a monster storm. I just want you to know we'll be thinking of you, your group, everybody there on Jamaica through this next stretch as those weather conditions. It is going to be dangerous for a stretch. That's Gabriella Barrera. Thank you. And again, stay safe.
Yes, thanks.
At all assessments of the current situation, while we pray for the best, hour by hour, it is becoming apparent that the impact of Hurricane Melissa could be greater than Hurricane Beryl, certainly in terms of rainfall and flooding. We can lessen damage and speed up recovery by taking preparatory and precautionary measures before the impact of the hurricane.
Yeah, you're hearing from officials. They've been urging people to prepare for this, and that was part of it. I know that there is, going back to Gilbert, 1988, there have been major hurricanes to directly strike the island. This one's different in the sense, not only its intensity rivaling that or even exceeding that now, its angle of approach from the south presents a whole slew of problems. So let's get into what's happening both there and what goes on beyond Jamaica. This moves across the island. The highest peaks are over on the eastern half of the island. They're going to get on the impacts and the rain, no question, but the actual core, the most intense winds, the eye wall, we're expecting that to move over the western part of the island, where there are mountains up to about 3,000 feet, which will disrupt that core some, but not nearly as much as what's happening on the other side of the island, where those peaks are twice as high. So this is expected to be a very intense storm on approach to eastern Cuba, still a major at that point, and even beyond that, it'll be dealing with big high terrain in through here. That should be disruptive. But hurricane watches are up for the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, where this may still be a formidable storm emerging north off of Cuba. So this is the Fox weather model. You look at the timing here into the overnight, things get worse and worse. This is 3 a.m. It hasn't made landfall yet, but conditions are considerably worse than what we'll see through this evening. By tomorrow evening, and now that core is north of Jamaica, but the impacts aren't done yet. We were talking about this with Brian Norcross. On the backside of this, you consider the counterclockwise circulation. This will push some water into the northern shores of Jamaica. Places like Montego Bay see a significant water rise, a surge. Then into Wednesday morning, we've got similar processes occurring on the northern shores of Cuba, even though in through here, it's up to about 11 feet, a figure that was bumped up by the National Hurricane Center earlier. We could see a water rise there up into the double digits. From there, we watch Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas, and beyond that, potentially late in the week toward Bermuda. Again, more of these impacts. But look at the rain totals, particularly up into the high terrain. There is a life-threatening landslide risk, flash flooding, and if you look at what's generating it, its totals a foot up to a foot and a half of rain. In the highest terrain, we could potentially see some numbers closer to 30 inches. All right, let's shift now to what's going to be happening as we move into the latter part of the week. Stateside, we got a nasty storm that's brewing. It's expected to impact millions from the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast. And as it does so, it gets uncomfortably close to Halloween, bringing some issues with it, as I mentioned. So a strong area of low pressure, heavy rain, strong winds that could generate some issues, more so into Thursday, it's looking, but Halloween, Friday, places like coastal New England, all the way through, down East Maine is in the mix. This is the overall look for that. Wednesday, we've got another storm moving through the Mid-South. Some of the places being impacted today. You get another soaking from this next storm. Thursday, across parts of the Mid-South, the Appalachians to the Mid-Atlantic, and up into the Northeast. Thursday, early Friday, a big soaking. And you did notice Melissa lofting some of that moisture toward the immediate coastline. Not a direct connection between the two systems, but enough that we see some rain enhancement because of that added moisture. This is Tuesday evening through Thursday morning, a quarter of 1 to 2 inches of rain with some some locally higher amounts up into the Appalachians. We'll be watching for some of that. That's going to do it for this hour of Fox Weather Now. Don't forget, you can stay up to date with the latest forecast, the latest on Melissa. You can download the Fox Weather app, free download, as we continue to track this major hurricane, a considerable threat.
On my knees in prayer. And I know that there are Jamaicans here praying for us, Jamaicans overseas praying for us, but more than that, it would appear that the entire world is praying for Jamaica. I've gotten so many calls from leaders from all over the world, in particular CARICOM leaders, who are all praying for Jamaica.
Right now on Fox Weather, major Hurricane Melissa is on track to deliver a catastrophic blow to the island nation of Jamaica. The intensity of this storm has entered historic territory. It's a monster Category 5 that could bring feet of rain tonight. That's before it makes its expected landfall tomorrow morning. Melissa exploded in strength over the weekend, growing from a tropical storm on Saturday to now the third Category 5 of the season, only the second season on record with 3 Category 5s, and it joins the notorious 2005 season. The storm is so intense, hurricane hunters were forced to abort a mission due to extreme turbulence. And down on the ground, evacuations have been ordered as an intense life-threatening storm surge up to 13 feet at the coast, and landslides inland could cut off communities for days or even weeks. The National Hurricane Center urging people at this point not to leave safe shelter until the storm has passed. We've got crews on the ground in Jamaica and Fox Weather hurricane specialist Brian Norcross standing by as Melissa closes in. It's all right now on Fox Weather Now. Hey, good Monday afternoon, everybody. Thank you, as always, for being here with us on Fox Weather. Right now, it's 4 o'clock on the East Coast, 1 p.m. out west. I'm Ian Oliver, and this is Fox Weather Now. This is Major Hurricane Melissa, a Category 5 storm inching closer to the island of Jamaica. You see the intensity of this storm up to a Category 5, as I mentioned. Its minimum central pressure down to 906 millibars. This is now a top 10 storm on record for intensity by that measure. For context, Maria, at its absolute strongest, got down to 908 millibars. So this has now exceeded that. Winds are up to 175 miles per hour, and that's the slow motion west-northwest at just 3 miles per hour. Let's bring in Fox Weather hurricane specialist Brian Norcross. Brian, you look at the specs on this, the expected impacts. It's truly a terrifying scenario. It's one that we talked about last week as the possibility of this playing out. I guess for Kingston, things have improved slightly, but this is still going to be just a devastating storm for so much of the island.
Yeah, you know, if you have to compare it to something, you compare it to Maria, which hit as a Category 4 and, of course, just devastated, especially the higher elevations of Puerto Rico. The San Juan was spared because it was on the other side of the mountain, essentially. Kingston is going to be spared because it looks like the worst of this is going to go to the west part of the island. I say spared. They're still going to get the runoff from the rain, and exactly how severe that's going to be is an open question. It could be just tremendous, the amount of water coming through Kingston trying to get down to the Caribbean Sea. So, yes, there is so many potentially catastrophic aspects to what's going to happen, and it's going to happen starting overnight tonight, then really peaking in the morning and then through the day tomorrow. You mentioned that 906 millibar pressure. Yes, that's down there below Maria at its maximum. Remember, its maximum was not at Puerto Rico. Its maximum was near Dominica, and 175 mile an hour winds, obviously up there with the strongest hurricanes we've recorded, that have been recorded and have been measured. All right, let's take a look at it close up here. This just unbelievable, just incredible circular storm. So what this tells you is that the storm is strong enough that it's pushing any negative influences in the atmosphere away. That's why you don't have any flattened sides. You don't have anything like that. The fact that we're seeing now in these latest pictures a little bit of something going on here is that an eye-wall replacement cycle trying to get going, which would weaken the top winds, but would expand the extent of the strong winds out. So not necessarily a net good thing, because it would cause more people to be in the corridor of strong winds, but the peak winds would not be quite so strong. But whether it's a strong Cat 4 or it's a amazing, not even bottom level Cat 5, up in the Cat 5 middle level range, about as strong as it can get, still it's just a devastating kind of scenario. All right, so let's look at it on the radar here and see if we can pick out anything here going on. There's that, you can kind of make out where that green is there, that's kind of wrapping around. So that maybe that's a moat, maybe that's just a band. A moat is where you have an area of kind of dry air, sinking air, and then a new eye wall tries to form around it. So we'll see if that's going to take place. It's going to run out of time to finish that by the time it goes from here on up into here tomorrow. It usually takes 24 to 48 hours for that to complete the whole cycle of going from super strong to weaker and bigger to strong again, but bigger. That's the whole eye wall replacement cycle. All right, so here's where it is right now, and here's where the National Hurricane Center is analyzing winds of at least 40 miles per hour out to here. Now, not everywhere, because you have all these mountains here, and some areas are blocked from it, so they don't get the strong winds from certain directions. When the wind, for instance, if the wind is coming like this into Kingston, there are mountains to the east, but if the wind comes from the south, there's nothing to stop the winds there. So as the storm moves north, those winds will switch, come from the south in Kingston, and that's when it'll get the peak winds. That'll be later on tonight and in the morning. All right, so let's look at the forecast. So this is the forecast as of the 11 a.m. advisory. Back then, the storm was weaker. It was only 160 miles or 165 miles per hour. So the thinking is they were making an estimate of a level wind speed. So in any case, they have it at Category 5 strength here this evening. And so here, this red area, that's the hurricane force winds estimate in that area, and then the core of it is smaller than that. So this is where the super strong winds are. These are hurricane force gusts here. So we'll see how this plays out. Watch we go forward in time here and compare it to these various locations on Jamaica. All right, so there's where it is just before landfall. So this is 8 a.m. Looks like landfall maybe 9 a.m. Eastern. That would be 8 a.m. local time in Jamaica. They're 1 hour behind Eastern time. The estimate is 160 mile an hour Category 5. As it's getting picked up and moved forward, the upper level winds become a little more hostile to the environment, possibly, but all these plus or minus 5 or 10 miles per hour, we really don't have an ability to forecast that. So looking at sort of an average situation that usually it can't maintain itself at that super strong speed for a long time. So a couple of places to note. Black River, first of all, is a kind of a port town there. It's a significant town right on the Gulf. It's on a bay there. And if you notice, the coast here has all these scallops in it. And the thing is that all these bays catch the water and they enhance the storm surge. So they're very dangerous places to be. That's what we were afraid was going to happen in Kingston Harbor. They're still going to get storm surge. It just won't be the core of it, because here's where the strongest winds are going to blow ashore. Now, if it deviates a little to the left, Black River is going to be right in this. It's going to be very, very close for Black River. Just down the coast from Black River right there is a place called Treasure Beach. It's a resort area. Boy, it's going to be super close there, whether they're just going to get blasted with storm surge to 10, 12, 13 feet above the normal high tide, which would just devastate a good part of the coastal areas there, or are they going to be just left of it? I mean, right now they're right in the core of this hurricane. Mandeville here is a city at 2,000 feet up in the mountains. This is a very mountainous island, but the winds increase with height. So if you have 160 mile an hour winds at the ground, you can have over 200 mile an hour winds with height, especially funneled in canyons and so forth. So scary time for Mandeville as well. And then and look over here to Kingston in the tropical storm force winds. So winds gusting to maybe 60 or 70 miles per hour in Kingston, but pushing the water toward the coast. Notice Montego Bay is in the hurricane force gusts coming this way from the north. They won't be as strong as the ones coming from the south, but still significant storm in Ocho Rios is going to be on the bad side of this hurricane, looks like, as it moves to the north. There you see it as it's exiting. The center is exiting about 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. local time tomorrow. Ocho Rios will be right in it at that time. Montego Bay getting strong winds coming this way, piling water into the bay there, again enhancing storm surge. They may get some storm surge there, not like on the south coast, but they may get some higher water levels. And Kingston, as it's moving over, that's the closest they come to the center, because it's not going due north. It's going east and north. So this is going to be the gustiest time in the afternoon, highest storm surge in the afternoon, and the Let to check again. I think the high tide is in the middle of the afternoon in Kingston. So this could be the time when it's the worst. But remember, and we're going to talk about the rain in a second, so let me just hold off on that. And then it moves north. I estimate as a Category 3 as it heads on north to Cuba and the Bahamas. High confidence in this forecast. Everybody pretty much agrees. The NHC forecast has edged a little bit to the east of the other models, but still right in that area. That's why I say for Blue River, right in there, boy, this is just so close to whether they're going to, just miss the worst surge or get the worst surge there into that bay. But high confidence that the worst of this is not coming into Kingston. That's what the Google model says in terms of the extent of the possible tracks, but these are very, very, very low odds here and here. The core of it is definitely right there. All right, so let's talk about the storm surge for a moment. Here you can see how the winds come at landfall. So here's the storm over here making landfall. Here come the winds around. So in all these bays here, this is where they up to 13 feet above normal high tide. Well, in Kingston, here the water's being pushed into the bay, but it's from weaker winds. But it still doesn't let the tide flow out. And remember, if it rains up on these mountains, which we'll talk about in a second, that's trying to come down. So you have the storm surge pushing in and the rain trying to get out, and those two things don't work together. This is Maypen is a significant city here, along with Mandeville, and they're going to begin the strong winds again. They have some elevation. It's not at the coast. It's inland, but that may be another city threatened significantly by the wind in this, and, of course, the rain. So here's the forecast for the rain. So here's where the storm is forecast to go track, something up in there like that. I think it's actually a little bit more over here. And so on the right side, it's driving tropical moisture into those mountains. So Mandeville is not only going to have to deal with the wind, but whatever the runoff is. Remember, the runoff doesn't happen right away. So this disaster, this catastrophe, will extend over some days while the water is coming down. And look at this, all these purples. These are up in the feet of rain here. So. And outside of Kingston, there's a tall mountain right there. You can really see it when we look at it like this. See the tall mountain there? Look at Mandeville kind of up in the mountains. All water that hits those mountains all has to come down. Same thing on the north side here. So when the wind comes around like this, the rain forms on the other side of the mountain and still has to come downhill. And so there's the cone moving north. Cuba, eastern Cuba, is going to have a hard hit. And that's kind of mountainous there. And then the central and southern Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Full preps required for a hurricane coming there on Wednesday. And then Bermuda, I'm going to watch for Bermuda right in the middle of the cone once again this year. They're going to feel it because the storm is going to get bigger as it goes north. They'll feel it. Whether they get the core of it, it's just way too soon to tell because the core is small relative to the Atlantic Ocean and the island is small. So you have to get kind of unlucky to get the worst of it there in Bermuda, but somehow they seem to be attracting hurricanes this year. Ian?
Brian, I was just looking at the high tide cycle for tomorrow is just as you suspected, or just about 3:30. The tidal range there, though, in Kingston, it's a little bit less than a foot. I don't want to say that that's negligible, but when you're talking about numbers like this, up to 13 feet, I guess you don't get the benefit of a big tidal cycle if that was happening at low tide.
Right, that's exactly right. And Kingston isn't going to get that maximum tide. That maximum tide is going to be to the west. That point that sticks out at the bottom of Jamaica there, called Portland Point, that's I think the tide is going to be to the west of there, where the worst storm surge is going to be. So that this let me see if I can work my machine here, this point right here. Yeah. So in this area here, in those bays there. Now, a lot of that is kind of a nature coast. And then you get over to, as I was talking about, Treasure Beach and Black River, but that's closer to right on the line, right on the track, and it's just too close to call for whether they're going to get the maximum surge there or they're just just going to be out of it. But it's, boy, is it going to be close.
Yeah, there's so many different aspects of this storm, and they're all life-threatening. They're all potentially catastrophic. So we got to pay very close attention to this. Brian, we're going to be checking back in with you. That's Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Brian Norcross. Thank you. After Melissa slams into Jamaica tomorrow, it has its sights set on Cuba with a second landfall there later in the day. We'll time it all out. We'll bring you the latest when Fox Weather Now comes right back.
Got a great business idea? Give it a domain name from GoDaddy. Every order comes with our effortless AI experience. GoDaddy Aero. Unlock your online potential today with GoDaddy.
Hey, welcome back to Fox Weather Now. Monster Hurricane Melissa is bearing down on Jamaica. We got to talk about, though, how we got here. Saturday morning, this was a tropical storm just starting to get its legs. You see that. That's at 11 a.m., the bulletin from the National Hurricane Center. Winds at 70 miles per hour. Yesterday morning, you moved to Sunday, 5 a.m. It's a Category 4 storm. So from a tropical storm to a Cat 4 in less than 24 hours. And then this morning, we reached Category 5 intensity, 5 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. So when we talk about the criteria for rapid intensification, this wasn't even close. It completely blew that out. Baseline rapid intensification is when the maximum sustained winds increase 35 miles per hour in a 24-hour period of time. Extreme rapid intensification is 58 plus in 24 hours. It blew that out, too. This was something like 70 miles per hour, the maximum sustained winds in just 18 hours' time. And that has everything to do with the set of improving atmospheric circumstances, yes, but the amount of ocean heat content, super warm, deep water below. So once it had its bones, its structure, it was only up for intensity. And all the while, this was all happening just south of Jamaica, moving at a snail's pace, truly, through the weekend, and now starting to make that turn to the north on a path that takes it toward the western half of the island. So here we go, that tropical storm force wind field. This is why officials there were urging folks to get to your safe spot. Tropical storm conditions have started across the entire island, but this is the core. We'll be watching that on approach late this evening into the overnight hours. First thing tomorrow, this is 8 a.m. That's the core of what we're expecting to be either a top-end Category 4 or Category 5 storm moving on shore with all of those devastating impacts.
While we must prepare for the worst, let us also pray for the best. In every adversity, we have found strength, not only in our resilience, but in the power of prayer. So wherever you are, I encourage you to gather your family and pray for protection, for calm, and for each other, trusting that God, who has seen Jamaica through every storm, will carry us safely through this one too.
Now, Jamaica's Prime Minister with a message there to his residents as conditions worsen. Look at this, a live picture now from Kingston, Jamaica, which we talked about. The trends, it's all in context, right? The trend off to the west was better, no question, for Kingston, but the threats will still be very considerable. We think the core, the most intense part of it, will be on the western part of the island, but considerable issues with that surge. Several feet likely there in Kingston into the harbor. We know how vulnerable the airport is. I believe the runway is about 10 feet, but the causeway that runs out onto that peninsula to Kingston's airfield, it's only about 3 feet above sea level, and that will almost certainly take on water. The impacts right there in Jamaica will be toward the top of the scale. And as we move beyond that into eastern Cuba, it's going to be late tomorrow into the early part of Wednesday. We get that next landfall. It should be late tomorrow as a major hurricane still. A little bit of disruption, but the highest peaks are over on the opposite side of Jamaica. These peaks in the western part of the island up to about 3,000 feet. That will be a weakening, a forcing toward the lessening of those winds, but it isn't going to disrupt it in any significant way before it reaches eastern Cuba as a very dangerous major hurricane. And that's why there are hurricane warnings up for Cuba, meaning expect hurricane conditions within 36 hours. And with our exclusive Fox weather model, you see why. There is that landfall tomorrow morning. That happens there in the western part of Jamaica. Tomorrow evening, it's on course for Cuba, and that'll happen into the overnight hours. By Wednesday morning, we've got that core lifting off the northern shores of Cuba. But places like Guantanamo do see considerable impacts. The forecast for rain there, 12 to 18 inches in total. The high terrain, we get even more than that. We could see some totals exceeding 2 feet of rain. That's in addition to the hurricane conditions and what we're expecting on the coastline. It could be a surge 7, 8, maybe up to about 10, 11 feet at its highest, wherever the right side of that core moves on shore there in eastern Cuba. And the reason why some of those rain totals are so big, these will be the biggest mountains that Melissa has to contend with in its journey. We had talked about that core. We expect it through the western part of Jamaica. That would be up around 2,000 to 3,000 foot mountains. But you get here into this part of Cuba, 6,500 feet, even farther off to the east, down to about 4,000. That will significantly disrupt the structure of this storm. But the terrain squeezes out the moisture and generates just an extreme amount of rain, which leads to flash flooding, landslides as a big concern. And then, of course, the coastal effects as the wind field moves through. I mentioned that overall surge. Look at some of these peak winds. Places like Santiago de Cuba, 100+ miles per hour for some of those max sustained winds. So this is an especially dangerous storm right there in eastern Cuba, and it'll maintain some of that intensity into parts of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, the impacts there, and eventually toward the end of the week, we'll be watching for Bermuda again. Meanwhile, back in the States, we're watching another storm system through the second half of this week. It's a Halloween storm. The worst of it's on Thursday, so it's kind of an All Hallows Eve storm. But you need to know about it because it's going to be impactful. It's a look right there at Knoxville. More rain on the way from the storm that we're tracking, and you've been dealing with it with this early week round. It's out of here before the Vols play on Saturday. This storm moves across the country. Got that big dip in the jet stream that fires up this next one. There goes one. You've got this moving, approaching the mid-Atlantic to the northeast. That's the progression from Tuesday to Friday. It brings with it some enhanced rain totals. We're talking about a pretty big swath of 1 to 2 inches of rain with some totals that could approach about 3 inches of rain. Wind with this, too. There's a strong area of high pressure off to the north. That's holding this storm south for now, but that ridge starts to break down, and there's a path for that area of low pressure off to the north and east. But you see, as the area of low pressure ramps up in intensity, those winds are increasing out of the south, pumping up some moisture. These southerly winds close enough to that circulation eventually, the one related to Melissa, which lofts up a bunch of moisture closer to the coast, that those south winds can pick up some of it. It's not some direct interaction that occurs between the two storms. It's just an enhanced amount of moisture offshore. Some of that gets wrapped back into this new storm, and that could increase some of the rain totals along the immediate coastline of New England, from the Cape all the way up through down East Maine, so we'll be watching for that. There's that swath of rain through at least Thursday morning I was talking about. That's all 1 to 2. Tennessee, most of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, all the way out to the Delmarva Peninsula, you've got significant rain in the forecast. Beyond that, it heads its way up into the northeast. You'll see that with our Fox weather forecast. But for the middle of the week, Wednesday through Thursday morning, a 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4 threat for flash flooding. Be aware that's a possibility. Thursday into Friday, we'll be watching for some of that rain. This is Halloween now. Most of the northeast, maybe a lingering shower early in Boston, but I think it's more so up into northern parts of New England, out toward down East Maine, where you're hanging on to that rain a bit longer. Fox Weather is your Hurricane HQ. Major Hurricane Melissa has its eyes set on Jamaica. The Category 5 hurricane expected to pack a punch with catastrophic impacts, all of them. The rain, the wind, the surge. The island finishing preps and awaiting this big storm to roar ashore. We're bringing you the latest when Fox Weather Now returns. Hey, welcome back to Fox Weather Now. Thanks for being here at the bottom of the hour. I'm Ian Oliver. I was just talking about this with Steph over in Weather Command. You look at the core of this storm, the eye, it's hugging the left side of the cone, no question. So we're maybe 20 minutes out from getting that new update in from the National Hurricane Center, the 5 p.m. advisory. There will be some little bit of adjustment off to the left or to the west, no question, based on the motion we've seen with this in the short term. This is an especially intense hurricane. We've talked about this. It's now in the top 10 by that minimum central pressure, that measure, 906 millibars. That's on record anywhere in the Atlantic basin. So this is becoming a historic storm, and unfortunately it's maxing out in intensity as it's on its final approach to Jamaica, the hours before it makes landfall. We think that's going to happen at some point tomorrow morning. Winds are at 175 miles per hour. This is a Category 5 storm. That's the slow motion. Part of the reason why the duration of this, the length of the impacts, the lasting aspect of this, you get all of these top-end concerns, and they last for a considerable amount of time because of the slow crawling speed of this storm. Let's head to Jamaica. We got a live look for you over Kingston Harbor. The island is expecting to experience a catastrophic storm. Surge could be as high as 13 feet. This would mark the most powerful storm in Jamaica's recorded history. Robert Ray is in Kingston with a look at the conditions ahead of Melissa's landfall.
Greetings from Kingston, Jamaica, capital city. We were just off the phone with our executive team in New York, and this is the hotel hallway. One of the rooms that we have here, we've been doing some broadcasting this morning from the balcony, and Pete, our photojournalist, is breaking down because we are about to make a move out of Kingston. Come out here if you can. Jared Maloney, meteorologist, field producer, behind the lens. Thank you, Pete. We have a lot of gear here. Can you show just all the gear? Pete is doing an incredible job. What it takes to put all this transmission together, and then all the food and supplies. We have a lot of packing up to do. As you see in the distance here, the mountains surrounding Kingston and some of the outer fringe bands beginning to come in. Here's the deal. We are making a move. Because of the track of Hurricane Melissa, Category 5 right now, it keeps running to the west, which is just remarkable. And we did not potentially expect it to go that far west. It will eventually cut to the north, make a landfall, and then head east across the island. But because of that, significant effects on the north shore of Jamaica are expected. Hurricane force winds and flooding. We have to find a location up there that is safe to broadcast from so that we can get these signals out tomorrow morning upon landfall. Landfall will be in the south, but it's going to cut up, and because of the size of it and the counter twist, all of those winds will impact those areas. And by the way, that's where all the resorts are. That's where Montego Bay Airport is. A big concern that airport may go offline, just like Kingston here. Flooding will happen here in Kingston. And you can see out here, Jared, head up right here and just give them a view. Pan this area and look at some of the clouds there in the distance. And light breeze, light rain. Nothing significant. Impacts will really begin overnight into tomorrow morning, and they will last for well over 24 hours. The actual landfall of this will cause catastrophic conditions, but then the backside, also huge problems. So we have a lot ahead of us. We're going to head up on an interstate here, and we need to scout out locations for safety, a fortified structure, a hotel that can take us in and allow us to potentially give live reports on Fox Weather and all the Fox mediums over to all of tomorrow into Wednesday. And then what do we do? If indeed we can move down some of these roadways, which are going to be compromised because of flying debris and power lines and vegetation down and no power and maybe even no communications. We will likely be heading back down here to Kingston. We'll try to cover here, we'll try to cover the north, and if we can make it to the southern shores eventually where the landfall is going to occur, we will. But some of those areas will be in such bad condition that I'm not sure that people will be able to get in and out of there for days. In the meantime, I'm going to head back into the room as we are packing up all of this gear right now. A lot of our food is in the vehicles already, and we've got a lot of work to do here in about the next coming hours. About a 3-hour drive up to the north. Godspeed, everyone here in Jamaica, including this team. Robert Ray, Pete, Jared, Fox Weather.
This is where the destruction is going to be, and take this circle right there and then translate that across the island. That's where the real corridor is going to be, that they're not going to be able to build anything really, and the trees are not going to stand, and it'll be a swath across Jamaica that I imagine we'll be able to see from the satellite, where the trees have been knocked down and the damage is just massive in that swath, not to mention what goes on here on the southern coast, and not to mention the flooding from the tremendous rain coming down from the mountains.
Yeah, that was Fox Weather hurricane specialist Brian Norcross breaking down some of the intense impacts that Jamaica is expecting when Melissa makes its landfall tomorrow, and even in the hours preceding that. A deadly storm surge, life-threatening and catastrophic flash flooding, landslides, those destructive winds, and an extended period of all those things. Because of that, this has been a great thing. We've been keeping an eye on all the cameras we have available to us out in Jamaica. That was from Kingston. Streets are empty because folks have made their plans, their preparations, got to a safe spot, and they're going to have to stay there for another day and a half or so at the minimum because of the slow pace of this. We aren't expecting the landfall to happen until tomorrow morning. The tropical storm conditions have already started there. So here's the latest. I'm keeping an eye on this because at any point in the next 20 minutes or so, we could get that 5 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. Winds are at 175 miles per hour. This is a Category 5 storm. It was a little slow to make that turn to the north, and it still hasn't done that in a dramatic way. West-northwest, the motion at 3 miles per hour. That's another thing to make a note of. We'll see how that's changed per the National Hurricane Center. And we talked about how low that minimum central pressure is, making this a top 10 storm in intensity on record. The enhanced satellite, you can see a bit of a jog off to the north and west, but this is most certainly not moving pure north at this point, but that core, just so incredibly intense. We can stare right down into the center of this, that top-down look from space with a visible satellite. Keep in mind, I'll be looking to see if the wind field changes either. The hurricane-force winds extend out about 30 miles from the eye, that center of circulation. So that is the part of the storm that is so dangerous, and that's why we've been talking about, at least for Kingston, it's who gets the worst of this in Jamaica. Now it looks very much like the core will be west of Kingston, bringing the worst of this to the western part of the island, and places like Montego Bay will unfortunately feel those effects. So look at these gusts, up to 44 miles per hour now in Kingston. So yeah, we're up into a tropical storm force range, and here comes the core of those winds approaching tomorrow morning. This is 8 a.m. Looks like landfall would be imminent at that point. Keep in mind, it's the center of the eye, the center of circulation, and it's the National Hurricane Center that calls that. So it isn't when any portion of the eye wall moves on shore. It isn't yet considered a landfall at that point. But look at this. Immediately off to the right, that'll be the zone. We talked about this with Brian, this out toward Portland Point. You see some of these bays which act like mitts and capture that water that's being pushed into the shoreline, where the only place it can go from there is up. And that's effectively what creates the surge, that push of water into the coastline. Somewhere in this zone, we could see a surge up to 13 feet, lesser totals out this way, but we know that these are critical ports for Jamaica, including over into Kingston, where there'll be a considerable water rise. And that causeway that runs up to the airport only has about 3 feet of give, so that'll likely take on water, take some damage as we move forward through this next stretch. There's the forecast track of Melissa. Later on tomorrow night, during the overnight hours, a second landfall in Cuba, again as a major hurricane. And then beyond that, this is still probably a Cat 2 at that point, moving through the southeastern Bahamas with some impacts to the Turks and Caicos. We'll watch beyond all this for Bermuda later on this week. Another impact, close approach, perhaps landfall as we move through the back part of the week. It's been such an active run for Bermuda the last several weeks now. We'll get back to the Caribbean in just a moment. We do want to look across the southeast. That's where some downpours have been moving through over the course of the day today. This is Hudson, Florida. That's up in Pasco County, 85 degrees, west wind at 18 miles per hour. These are the storms now onshore that we were talking about last hour. The special marine warning that was issued out into the Gulf. Look at that flash of lightning right there. Yeah, these are some healthy storms moving onshore. You see the look of that. You can see the flag. These are some gusty winds, not really registering up on that. That is actually a new severe thunderstorm warning. Parts of Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco County, so the Tampa Bay area, northern parts of it, northern half of Pinellas, northwestern parts of Hillsborough County, awfully close to the airport, and then up through Pasco, even southern parts of Hernando County, you've got a severe thunderstorm warning. So that's a big warning issued for some wind gusts to 60 miles per hour. So previously, it was the maritime concerns. That was the special marine warning. But in through here, it does look like the worst of that is most certainly up across Pasco County. So Hudson is going to be getting in on some of the worst of that. Northern parts of Pinellas, Tarpon Springs, be on the lookout for that. It's been a soggy stretch here. Look at this over on the Space Coast of Florida. Some of the rain totals that we've seen over the past couple of days. It was pouring over the weekend, double-digit totals. And with that, we still have a flood watch that's up and some ongoing flood warning. So there are concerns we're going to have to watch and see as these storms pivot their way across the peninsula if we see more issues. Space Coast all the way down to Broward County, at least a 1 out of 4 threat for flash flooding as issued by the Weather Prediction Center. So here we go. That's the setup with one storm system soaking parts of the southeast. We talked about that next one that'll be moving in later in the week. So be aware. You get some soggy conditions in the forecast. It's just dreary in Atlanta right now. That's Georgia Tech's Bobby Dodd Stadium, 52 degrees, low clouds, a little drizzle, some light rain in the mix. Hurricane Melissa steering northwest. It has its eyes set on Jamaica. Catastrophic impacts looming for the island. A destructive storm surge, powerful winds, life-threatening flash flooding with feet of rain expected. We're waiting on that 5 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. We'll have much more on Melissa, and maybe we'll get that update, or we're watching for it. We'll bring you the latest right here on Fox Weather Now.
Just give me candy. Christmas promotion. Bigger and better than ever.
Buy 6 Kendall products, including Kendall Tuna, Kendall Sardine, or Kendall Gunga Peas, and you could win big. We've got 24 amazing prizes, including double-door refrigerators, 6 burner stoves, microwaves, stainless steel pot sets, and even baskets filled with groceries. To enter, drop your receipts in boxes at participating stores or WhatsApp a photo of your receipt to 876-884-0411. Promotion ends December 15. Conditions apply.
Kendel.
Welcome back to Fox Weather now. A monster Category 5 Hurricane Melissa threatening Jamaica with catastrophic impacts. We're expecting the landfall into tomorrow morning. We did just get that new update in from the National Hurricane Center, so let's show you what's happening with that. No change to the wind or the pressure, still down at 906 millibars, which, as we told you, marks this as a top 10 storm on record, intensity-wise, anywhere in the Atlantic. By that measure, the winds are at 175 miles per hour, so holding steady. The motion going from west-northwest to northwest, so it's indicative that but it's certainly not in any big rush to make that turn to the north. Some other updates. We did just get a hurricane warning issued for the southeastern Bahamas, meaning expect hurricane conditions within the next 36 hours. So that's more of a time scale thing, as we're expecting those conditions to arrive. They have to go ahead and upgrade that to the warning. Tropical storm warning issued now for Turks and Caicos. So just on the periphery of where we're expecting the hurricane conditions, they're saying expect tropical storm conditions as we move through the next day and a half. And you do notice that with this forecast, the maximum winds still at 175 miles per hour. That inner core looks like we're losing Jamaican radar. This has been going in and out all day.
Again, you do see some vendors there. I think they're
core forming, an eye wall replacement cycle. It's not perfectly clear. We'll get more data from the hurricane hunters as they resume flights and tell us more about the structure of this. That would be something that could limit the top end wind speeds for a period of time, but broaden the overall wind field, the size of the storm. So we'll be watching for that. But into Cuba, as we head into Wednesday morning, that's still a major hurricane.
In orange, there are two persons there walking. You know, it amazes me how these people seem to be pretty casual, you know, going about, you know, seemingly normal business at almost 4 o'clock on the eve of a major Category 5 hurricane hitting the island. And I don't know if it's because our last major hurricane that had a direct hit was Gilbert 37 years ago, that some of the younger persons, you know, persons under 40, 45 perhaps have not a significant memory of what really happened, but it is a dangerous storm, folks. You need to get off the streets, get home, and be safe. Before I go to the next report, we have some breaking news just in. This is from a police source of mine. Unfortunately, in the midst of this serious adversity that the nation is facing, we have a double murder. The double murder is on William Street in Spanish Town, the old capital. It happened not too long ago. The police scene of crime are on the scene, and we'll update you as soon as we get additional information. So that's a double murder on William Street. This is in the old capital, Spanish Town. Janella Precious visited the shelter at the National Arena, where we have the largest shelter in the island and in the capital. And what are things looking like, Janella?
Thank you so much, Milton. Well, we're outside the National Arena. It is where the largest of the shelters in Kingston and St. Andrew area is located. It's rainy and windy, and as we speak, we are seeing more activity here as more persons have decided to seek shelter here. Now, I am going to speak with Milton, the shelter manager, Miss Audrey Tuller Lorne, and it has been a very interesting day as more people continue to come in, right, Audrey?
Yes, yes. Right now we have 71. I think when you came we had less than 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last night we didn't have anyone come in, but as the morning broke, you know, they just came in, you know, in droves, and we're expecting more.
You are expecting more.
Yeah.
So tell us about the immediate needs of the shelter as we speak.
All right. Well, the Red Cross headquarters, Kingston and St. Andrew branch, provide meals for them, the 3 meals. But in between, they're going to need dry stuff. They've been asking for biscuits, for teas, anything that it's, you know, you don't need a stove to prepare. They need that. And also, sometimes after the meals are given out, you have people coming in, so they are going to need things to eat also. So any kind of food stuff we can get for them. We need toiletries for them, cleaning products, clothes, because some come in wet. We have some homeless people here, so we need clothes for them also.
So what do you provide apart from the safe haven? What else do you provide when persons come to the shelter?
We provide clothing when we have enough. We provide food for them.
So when you say you provide food, is that 3 meals a day?
3 meals a day, a cooked meal, yeah.
Do you even have enough to, I mean, we see where the numbers are growing. Do you think you have enough to provide, say, for example, 200 persons?
We can only house 150 here.
Okay.
I don't think we'll have enough, and hence our appeal to you to help us. You know, people never have enough food, and when it's raining, you always want to eat more.
Okay, so you're saying that you can only accommodate 150.
150.
What if more people, more than that number come in? Would you have to turn them back?
No, we'd have to squeeze them. It's just that people need their space.
Okay,
and sometimes when people are too close, there's conflict. So, you know, you try to give them a little 2 by 2, so it's theirs. And we don't want to, you know, to make people get too close to them.
Do you get a feeling that there's a misconception about what a shelter provides from people? Talk to me about that.
Well, most people, when they get here, because when you're trained as a shelter manager, you learn that, you know, people come into the shelter should come with clothing, medication, and food for 3 days. Now we have people coming without clothes and without food. So they expect us to provide food for them. So that's a misconception that there's a kitchen and the pot is always going.
But that is not the case.
That is not so.
Okay, so it's very important that the donations come in so that the Red Cross can help persons. So if you are out there and you can help, it is very important because we want to ensure that this place is running, you know.
And ensure that everybody is safe.
And ensure that everybody is safe.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, Audrey. So we're going to just take a little walk. We're not going to zoom in on people, but I just want to show our viewers what it is like inside the National Arena. Again, we're not going to film anybody, but we have seen, as I would have said earlier, that the numbers are growing. In addition to adults, we are seeing a few children here with their mother. Persons are listening to their radio, listening to the news, listening to Radio Jamaica, listening to religious programs, and pretty much just hoping that, you know, the hurricane passes soon so that they can get their life back together. Now, we were told that we have persons here from Portmore. There are 3 persons who are from Port Royal who are here, and a lot of homeless people as well. So I just want to show you, this is the area where you have several cots.
You don't know what it means.
And when the persons come in, this will be given to them, a cot with a blanket. And there is enough, we were told. And so this is part of the process. The only thing that's needed now is additional supplies like dry goods as well as sanitary stuff. So Milton, this is what is happening at the National Arena. It is expected that as the day persists, more persons will be coming here, and the staff from the Red Cross, they say that they are ready. It's back to you in studio.
Okay, Janella Precious reporting from the National Arena. Janella, thank you very much. And as Hurricane Melissa makes her way to Jamaica at a snail's pace, the authorities have been at pains to point out that the amount of rain that is expected will overwhelm the drains and the network of gullies that crisscross the corporate area. Halshin Burke has the special feature on the drains and the gullies in the corporate area.
As we meandered through the corporate area, residents could be seen making last-minute efforts to batten down, board up and secure their premises, even while expressing fear that the gully nearby would not be so considerate. The McGregor Gully, which runs through the McGregor Gardens community in Vineyard Town, has residents fearing for what might be having been flooded mere weeks ago. Right behind me is the McGregor Gully. Now this is a major concern for residents because each time heavy rains come, this gully floods. And with heavy rains over the past couple of weeks, the residents here have been moving out. Now with Melissa threatening and the waters rising, there is even more concern for the residents as to what will happen. They're appealing to the authorities to come and offer them assistance. Nathaniel Bundy has been living on the banks of the McGregor Gully for most of his life and has seen the havoc that fast-moving waters from the gully can have.
Well, the main concern for residents currently is flooding, right? Because this area is a flood-prone area, as you can see. From future experiences, this area is always flooded. The water travels down this passage here, goes into the gully. The water travels into the gully, but it goes over into the community, right? So once there's an excessive flow of water coming from the channel, it goes and spills into the community, causing excessive flooding. Persons lose their house stuff, vehicles get damaged, beds, stuff, all of these things, goat. So there's a lot of issues currently facing that in terms of that problem. So I think there's a center currently in the community on Langston Terrace side, right? I think there's provisions that are needed in that aspect too, just in case that these things occur. I think this morning they started prepping for that aspect, but there isn't a lot of supplies currently. And I know that this area will be flooding a couple of hours from now.
We had some heavy rains over the past couple of weeks, halfway tree area flooded, Crossroads area flooded. What was happening here during that time?
Well, during that period, and it wasn't even a lot of rainfall, but there was excessive flooding as well. Persons still haven't recovered from that era. Mr. AJ and Langston, who is a shop owner, clean out the mud out of Phoebe yet. And as you can see right here, the road is torn apart from that last flooding. So the ground already is tearing up, and the water already starting to path travel through and going into the gully and over into the community as it would usually do. So I think some infrastructure work needs to be done here to try to diffuse that aspect from reoccurring. It's a thing that reoccurs every time rain falls. All right, so some groundwork is needed, but it's a thing that is going to happen for sure.
We noticed that some areas have been concreted and some walls have been elevated and some areas have been repaired. Has that not helped?
Well, it not to an extent, but it has decreased the effect over the years because they try to build up the walls a little bit higher from that area to here, and they try to get the structure a little bit firmer so that the ground does not break away, but that still won't reduce the effect of the flooding that will go into the community. It probably would allow the road to stay, but the water will still find its way on it and over into the community. So I think that there needs to be a wall, probably the road needs to be widened, the gully needs to be widened so that the water can have more space to travel before it reaches this corner, so it avoids going into the community. So that's the only suggestion I could say.
For 34 years, Natalia Bundy has called McGregor Gully home, and in that time, she's seen its best days and worst.
I really have nowhere to go, and the flooding not really bother our house still, but cross the bridge, they're mostly affected. I don't really have a bad experience, roof never blow off yet. As I see my uncle try do what he can do, and I tie down my little piece of AC and I sweep off the roof and I try to get everything, so I nail up the window there in case, because it open. So we don't really have no bad experience over here, but regarding to over the gully itself, you have people who get flood and all type of things.
So what are you expecting to happen from this storm?
I don't know. I don't know it will work out that time, but we just wish for the best. Outside, man, always outside. Always outside.
Looking at the water now, based on what you're seeing now and what your experience has been, is this going to get any worse?
Yeah, it will come right up. But as I tell you, it come to the brim, but it never come over my side yet. But it come way up, and it normally bursts. It normally come over from up the top there, so, and come down in the gully. So that's why the people them get the flooding. All when them fix it, them fix it, them do, them try for other things to make it work, and it just keep on and come over.
So what would you like to see the authorities do?
Boy, I never know. Try to build a thick wall so the water not come over when, cause not even hurricane alone, you know, all when little rain fall, like enough rain, it still, where you know, it come from way uptown and so the water heavy, so it always come over. So me I say, if them probably build a big thick wall from up that side where it normally come over from, probably that would save them. Well, that's my opinion, I don't know.
Where you now move?
When I get rich. When I get rich and I get my house, I move. But I'm not going to go left my family. Them do say, you know, so everybody I go leave. Because my brother, them, I wonder how I go on. Yeah, but it's not so bad over here. As I tell you, I just over here, some mostly need the help. And once there's a fix, them find a solution so the water not come over, I guess everything else will all right. That's the problem. Because people roof not really blow off, you know. Not really blow off, just the water are the problem.
I'm standing in Sandy Lane in the Ligonier area of St. Andrew. And right where I'm standing, right on the bank of the Sandy Gully, stood a two-story dwelling with 6 family members who during the passage of Hurricane Sandy in 2010 lost their lives when the house collapsed into the Sandy Gully. Now, on the banks, there are many others who are still living on the banks of the Sandy Gully. Concerned? Not so much. They are looking to ride out the storm as Melissa passes by. For those living on the gully bank, this narrow track is the only lifeline connecting residents to their homes. Why did you choose to live here on the gully side?
Well, sometimes, you know, I was living down here all along. I was living up the top, but I used to pay rent, and after that I got somewhere down here to build. So I came down here and built.
Aren't you concerned about the gully overflowing its banks?
Well, from I am here, it really never overflow. It come up high, but it don't really come over.
And your neighbors, you have had neighbors who used to be here, but the house has collapsed.
The house has collapsed and life were lost.
Aren't you afraid that that might happen to you at some point?
Sometimes I'm a little afraid, like no, but if I have to evacuate, I will.
And with Melissa coming now, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I am trusting God that for the best, that with Melissa coming, I won't be in danger. So I just keep trusting God. But as I said, if I have to move, I will move.
Do you have friends and family that you will be moving to, or where would you go?
Well, I have friends and family and church family further up the road.
And how long have you been living here?
I am living here for over 40 years.
So you have seen the best and the worst of it?
I have seen the best and the worst.
And what do you think now of it? Based on what you're seeing, based on the state of the gully, based on the weather, what you think?
For this gully personally, I am not scared right now because it keep running. The only time I would be afraid if it come up, right? But for now, it keep running. So as long as it keep running, I don't think I will be in danger, right? The reason why we were in danger the last time because the house fell over in the gully, and because the house went over in the gully, it blocked the gully. So we were in danger at that time. And we didn't have, we were cut off, so we had to move and take other refuge.
Lloyd Campbell has not only lived life on the edge for over 50 years, but has even managed to till the soil.
Everywhere was like open land, bush and thing, and when me as a Rasta man, we have dreadlocks a ground. When I come down here and start farm the place, over a period of time, I build a little ranch, you know, and after I develop it up and go and do my little thing, and till it work out to when Sandy come now. Sandy come and move everything, because girl live next, but she be like, oh, upon the gully edge. Remember the gully had just a stone face them alone. Upon the gully, so she take 3 hours, put on and build. But say, 2 or 3 stories, I remember. So anyone lady will live over there, so say, who is that roof house over there? That house a lean, you know. And thing anyhow go on, and when Sandy come now, me and my woman at the house, and she said, turn on the light. Me I said, turn on the light. You know, here sitting there, I go, say, what that got sounds in the gully. I say, must say a stone come down, I think when you take a stack of the girl next door house dropping at the gully. So 6 of them die in a sandy thing. And my house wash it out. At the Thursday, the last piece drop in our gully. So comes on, we relocate and build further up. So I figure I'm safe now because the gully stay there, or them cast it with premix or them thing done. So I don't have no fret.
Based on what is happening and what you're expecting from Melissa, do you expect anything major to be happening?
Well, them say right now it's serious, so I figure something major will happen because them say it's slow and kind of hard. So I expect probably thing will go on, you know. I know the loss of life or the property I will go on, but to them I say it'll linger and I go slow and the strength tight. So I figure something will happen.
So what are you going to be doing?
I was go and live, you know. I go and live easy and expect it for blow through and go, so.
So you won't be relocating or anything?
No man. I move on. I'm good man. No gully now come trouble me up so man. When them fix the gully last time, if I went stone the dead, I know me that afraid. But another stone, a real concrete as you can see. You understand? So we just go and ride out the storm, you know.
So you're in a better state now than before?
Yeah, man. First time I have zinc house, so I have a little concrete. I'll do it a leak. Because the rain a linger, it a drop through the concrete same way. But right, that's a mess there, man. I don't really relocate going away. You understand? So I just saw it go till that time there. All right? I make some juice, you know. From juice and star fruit, you see it. And I go and ease myself. So they come away now, I go digging at it, you know. All right? So go and hold it. Yeah, man, I'm cool, man.
Concerns have often been raised about the fate of the Seaview Gardens community when there are heavy rains, as it sits on the edge of the sandy gully. Despite this, however, Cliff is not overly anxious. What has been the experience when heavy rains?
When heavy rains, the whole road become like the sea. You understand? So sometimes even if it gets drastic to a level, we have to use the boat to assist people. Back then, what I know of, like in Gilbert, from my experience, and we basically get stuck as far as, you know, St. Patrick Foundation over there, black. To the side we call Marley, over to the back road there, black, and then down in the middle where we go through we call Front Scheme, black, and you know, we just have to stay put.
So what have you seen in previous years?
What have I seen in previous years? Endless rain, countless debris, all different kind of thing, old vehicle, you know, refrigerator, overflow, the whole thing blocked, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, and are residents affected? Are homes flooded out? What's that like?
Most definitely. People lose them roof. You know, because you know after every rainfall the roof give way. People lose their animals like pig farmers, chicken farmers, goat farmers, all of that.
Your house is near to the sandy bank. How has that affected you?
Well, crazy. We have to do a lot of rebuilding. You know, there was a lot of material too. People have material that they dump to the building, wash away also. My house really, it don't affect it so much because, you know, we do a lot of preparation, me and my brother-in-law and the family in hand, you know, ahead of time.
Why not relocate? Why are you still living close to the sandy gully?
Well, we have different locations, you know. My family per se have different locations, but you don't know, we have the, what you call it, sentimental attachment to the community after being here so many years, and we not leave out the people, you understand? We rather stay with the community and make sure, say, we put our hands together and strengthen the community instead of just migrate to the hills or country. You understand?
With Melissa now making her way to Jamaica, what has been the preparation been like for residents of Seaview?
Well, everybody pull together whatever little piece of rope we can get, to whatever little wall nail, some zinc, you know. We make, you know, have a little meeting, say if anybody, you know, don't have the necessary facilities to stay, they can come over there. The MP and local guys have some of the people know by the school, you know, the primary school, Seaview Garden Primary, and, you know, we try few guys go out and check on the neighbors, the elderly and whatever throughout the time. Like you come and see us now, we outside checking around on the little neighbors and whoever not able to do it on their own.
Despite the looming threat of Hurricane Melissa, these residents are taking what precautions they can, drawing strength from one another as they await the storm's passage. Their hope is simple, that this time their homes will withstand the force of nature and that the promise of a more permanent fix will be realized once the skies clear. Halshane Burke, TVJ News.
And now, to end this update, we bring you shots of the waterfront where the waves have been quite ferocious. This is what it looked like earlier. Tourists were taking pictures and videos of the situation as it unfolded, and the live view from the waterfront on the Sea Jamaica camera, the buildings along the harbour are no longer visible. It's actually very foggy. That's the view of the harbour from the Sea Jamaica camera. The area is very foggy. The waves are even rougher. Not much to see there, but definitely horrible, horrible, treacherous conditions out there. So please get inside if you're outside. Stay indoors. Secure your property. This hurricane is very, very dangerous. Please, folks, take it seriously. We do not have hoping we could get some update on that double murder in Spanish Town on William Street. Horrible situation in the midst of the hurricane, but that's all we have time for now in this latest update. I'm Milton Walker. Join us again at 6 o'clock as we carry the press briefing live from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management when we get the latest on what's happening with Hurricane Melissa, and of course Primetime News will follow immediately at 7 o'clock, and we'll of course have updates later this evening. I'm Milton Walker. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon.
Category 4 hurricane. Approximately 100 miles south of Kingston, heading westward at 5 miles per hour, it is projected to turn northward. We are already experiencing rain and overcast conditions. Based on current assessments, all of Jamaica will likely be affected by hurricane conditions, meaning heavy rains and winds above 100 miles per hour. It is also likely that hurricane conditions could linger over Jamaica due to the slow-moving nature of this system. Given the extended days of rains leading up to landfall and the expected inundation from the actual passage, we can expect general flash floodings across the island. However, low-lying areas, coastal areas, river courses, gullies, and other waterways will overflow either from excess rain or storm surges. Extended rainfall and heavy rainflows will also trigger landslides in hilly areas. Buildings and activities in or along those waterways or hillsides will be at high risk of damage, complete displacement, and loss of life. Hurricane winds will most certainly damage roofs and compromise some structures. By all assessments of the current situation, could be greater than Hurricane Beryl, certainly in terms of rainfall and flooding. We can lessen damage and speed up recovery by taking preparatory and precautionary measures before the impact of the hurricane. It is expected that Hurricane Melissa will make landfall on Tuesday. I take this opportunity to reinforce the appeal to residents of low-lying areas, historically flood-prone areas, gully banks, riverbanks, hillsides, and other vulnerable areas to take precautions to protect your property where possible, prepare your evacuation plan, and comply with the evacuation orders given. Avoid unnecessary risks such as playing in floodwaters and waterways, climbing trees and roofs during the hurricane. Shelter in place, stay inside during the hurricane. We have issued an order under the Disaster Risk Management Act declaring the entire island of Jamaica a threatened area. This provides us with the legal framework to take all necessary measures to safeguard lives and property during the hurricane. All our national agencies, ODPEM, the JDF, the JCF, the NWA, and our first responders are on high alert. Shelters have been prepared, supplies pre-positioned, and emergency teams are standing by across the island. At the time of impact, the government will declare a disaster under the DRMA, along with the various other measures necessary from time to time to take us safely through the periods of disaster, relief, and recovery. Today, I signed a compulsory evacuation order for several communities along the south coast, which will empower ODPEM to act as necessary to have persons evacuated from high-risk areas to save lives. We have also issued an order under the Trade Act to prevent price gouging. No one should seek to profit from the hardship of a disaster. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining will be issuing a recommended price list for all market produce. We have intensified our drain cleaning and mitigation programs across the island, targeting critical areas that are most vulnerable to flooding. Over 400 million Jamaican dollars has so far been allocated for drain cleaning and waterway cleanup, including at least $3 million to each constituency to carry out emergency drain cleaning and local preparedness. In addition to preparing the country for the impact of the hurricane, we are also taking steps to position ourselves for the recovery following impact. The security forces will ensure there is no break in public order during and after the hurricane. We will take all steps under the law to protect life and property from looting and other antisocial behavior. We urge all citizens to maintain the peace, observe the laws and various orders that may be issued, and act wisely in limiting movement and gatherings to what is necessary. Your government has built out a comprehensive multi-layered disaster risk financing framework to ensure that we can respond quickly and effectively. We have the National Natural Disaster Risk Fund and the Contingency Fund, which we will use to start the relief and recovery process. Beyond these, there are additional layers of insurance protection that are triggered once specific impact thresholds are met, along with contingent credit facilities. The NWA, JDF, NSWMA, local governments, and our utilities are all prepared to reopen roads, restore access, and reinstate service to ensure a quick recovery. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security, supported by the JDF, is fully prepared to lead the humanitarian relief effort and the data gathering for damage assessment. Please play your part in having your identification and other documentation ready if you have to apply or register for relief. The Ministry of Agriculture is ready to offer support to our farmers and fishers to ensure that they are back out in the field as soon as possible. The Ministry of Health is making plans for major mosquito and other vector control initiatives immediately after the hurricane to avoid outbreaks of diseases, especially dengue. I want to take this moment to recognize our frontline workers, our healthcare professionals, police officers, soldiers, firefighters, utility crews, and all essential personnel who will be out there risking their lives to protect ours and to serve us. With proper preparation, discipline, and care for one another, we will come through this safely, as we have done so many times before. And let us remember, it is in times like these that Jamaica's true character shines through. Reach out to your neighbor, check on the elderly, check on persons with disabilities, and anyone who may need help. That is who we are, a people who live by the principle, each one help one. While we must prepare for the worst, let us also pray for the best. In every adversity, we have found strength, not only in our resilience, but in the power of prayer. So wherever you are, I encourage you to gather your family and pray for protection, for calm, and for each other, trusting that God, who has seen Jamaica through every storm, will carry us safely through this one too. My Jamaican family, we will weather this storm, and when the sky is clear, we will come together to restore and build stronger, prouder, and more resilient than before. Keep safe, everyone. May God bless you, protect your families, and keep safe our beloved Jamaica land we love.
These are the National Emergency Hurricane Shelters in the parish of Clarendon.
Weather reporting is a contact sport. The elements are harsh. The impacts can be unpredictable and devastating. I'm Robert Ray, and traversing America, reporting in the harshest conditions and telling the stories of survivors and first responders is my passion. Fox Weather, for all seasons, for all America.
See the low cloud deck, the rain that's moving through. We've had tropical storm force winds there already, and it'll only worsen as we move forward through the next several hours, overnight and tomorrow. The island expecting in spots, a little bit farther off to the west of this camera, but a catastrophic storm surge as high as 13 feet. That's right at the immediate coastline. The water rise over normally dry ground at high tide. Terrifying to have that kind of forecast from the NHC. This is expected to be the most powerful storm in Jamaica's recorded history. Robert Ray is in Kingston with a look at the conditions ahead of Melissa's landfall.
Greetings from Kingston, Jamaica, capital city. We were just off the phone with our executive team in New York, and this is the hotel hallway. One of the rooms that we have here, we've been doing some broadcasting this morning from the balcony, and Pete, our photojournalist, is breaking down because we are about to make a move out of Kingston. Come out here if you care. Maloney, meteorologist, field producer behind the lens. Thank you, Pete. We have a lot of gear here, and actually, can you show just all the gear? Pete is doing an incredible job. What it takes to put all this transmission together, and then all the food and supplies. We have a lot of packing up to do. As you see in the distance here, the mountains surrounding Kingston and some of the outer fringe bands beginning to come in. Here's the deal. We are making a move. Because of the track of Hurricane Melissa, Category 5 right now, it keeps running to the west, which is just remarkable. And we did not potentially expect it to go that far west. It will eventually cut to the north, make a landfall, and then head east across the island. But because of that, significant effects on the north shore of Jamaica are expected. Hurricane force winds and flooding. We have to find a location up there that is safe to broadcast from so that we can get these signals out tomorrow morning upon landfall. Landfall will be in the south, but it's going to cut up, and because of the size of it and the counter twist, all of those winds will impact those areas. And by the way, that's where all the resorts are. That's where Montego Bay Airport is. A big concern that airport may go offline, just like Kingston here. Flooding will happen here in Kingston. And you can see out here, Jared, head up right here and just give them a view. Pan this area and look at some of the clouds there in the distance. And light breeze, light rain. Nothing significant. Impacts will really begin overnight into tomorrow morning, and they will last for well over 24 hours. The actual landfall of this will cause catastrophic conditions, but then the backside, also huge problems. So we have a lot ahead of us. We're going to head up on an interstate here, and we need to scout out locations for safety, a fortified structure, a hotel that can take us in and allow us to potentially give live reports on Fox weather and all the Fox mediums over to all of tomorrow into Wednesday. And then what do we do? If indeed we can move down some of these roadways, which are going to be compromised because of flying debris and power lines and vegetation down and no power and maybe even no communications. We will likely be heading back down here to Kingston. We'll try to cover here, we'll try to cover the north, and if we can make it to the southern shores eventually where the landfall is going to occur, we will. But some of those areas will be in such bad condition that I'm not sure that people will be able to get in and out of there for days. In the meantime, I'm going to head back into the room as we are packing up all of this gear right now. A lot of our food is in the vehicles already, and we've got a lot of work to do here in about the next coming hours. About a 3-hour drive up to the north. Godspeed, everyone here in Jamaica, including this team. Robert Ray, Pete, Jared, Fox Weather.
The sun will be up when all this stuff starts flying around. It's a good idea to have sunlight so you can see what's going on. In the vicinity of Black River, which is a town there, a significant town down on the coast. It's kind of a port down there, and a resort area called Treasure Beach just below Black River seems to be right in the center of this thing, and the city of Mandeville, which is 2,000 feet up as well. So this is just very, very bad for this area right here. I hope nobody stays where the water can come down from the mountain or the wind can get them. It's really daunting. Then 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, you see it moving across the island. Again, hurricane force winds here, including into Montego Bay. 1 to 3 foot of storm surge there. But this is the onshore side. And somewhere in here, if the core is like this, somewhere in here there's going to be a swath that's going to be like a tornado. It's just going to take out the trees for a significantly wide, like it's like a big wide tornado. Just think about it. If the winds are 175, the gusts are over 200, that's an EF5 tornado. So this is really, really extreme.
Yeah, that's a terrifying thing to consider. So you got a live picture here from Kingston, Jamaica. You're seeing all the preps. There's almost nobody. That might be, there's 2 cars. All these folks getting to where they're going to be for the storm, because we're getting to the point where that's where you'll have to stay for the balance of this. Live picture from Kingston. Want to show you something. Steph right behind me in Weather Command was just working on this. It's something that we were talking about in the break. 5 p.m. advisory, just to point that out, 175-mile-per-hour winds. We've got hurricane hunters. The Air Force is coming from Curacao. The NOAA hurricane hunters flying down from Lakeland. They're both getting close, maybe an hour out or so. Look at what's going on here. So we've got the new forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. We talked about the deviation off to the west of this overall track. It appears as though that trend hasn't stopped just yet. So we've got the center line. Just to show you the motion, you look at the eye here. We got zoomed in on this now. It's already hugging the left side of the cone. And you saw that motion. It was a jog almost southwest. It's a wobble. That's not unusual. That's how hurricanes move, especially strong hurricanes. Trochoidal motion. It's a wobble, almost like a tire out of balance. It moves along a general path. So typically we just take across a time scale 2 positions, and then you get the net motion. But this wobble in the short term is still pulling this west, no question. We're staring at this. That is a better solution for where we were looking over in the capital, Kingston. It is a poor solution for places like Montego Bay, which are facing now a greater risk of taking the core of this storm going right overhead, with some of the conditions that Brian was talking about, describing what that would be like being in a giant tornado. This is the type of hurricane that will produce a look like that. We know these intense Category 5 winds extend out about 30 miles from the center of circulation, and it'll be the right side of the storm, the advancing side of it, that has the absolute worst of the impacts. You look at how this has played out, going back to the second half of the weekend. Saturday, this was a tropical storm. Yesterday, this became a Category 4. This morning, a Category 5. It's been in a pristine set of both atmospheric circumstances and the ocean heat content below is maxed out. Before Melissa, there hasn't been a storm in the Caribbean all season. This was the first go-around, even in the very late stages of October. This is what we were talking about. That's the NOAA hurricane hunters. They're based out of Lakeland, Florida. The United States Air Force was staged down in Curacao. Right there, you can see the origin of the flight path. They're both headed toward the core of this thing. That'll tell us a whole lot more moving through this evening once we have that data, what's happening within this storm. Now, the wind field, that's what I mentioned. The tropical storm conditions have started on Jamaica. Tomorrow morning, that core is starting to move ashore, the red in through here, which is what we were talking about with the tornado-like overall experience and the damage that's produced as such. Keep in mind, this center line here, if we extend it out something like this, this is that 5 p.m. advisory, but we just saw that the eye, its inner core, is already left. It's hugging more so the left side of the storm, and that's why I had mentioned all these western cities, places like Montego Bay. This is a worsening outlook that we're watching play out right now in real time. The storm surge, that is still going to be with a larger wind field. The tropical storm force winds something like 200 miles, forcing water into the southern shores of Jamaica. We could see a maximum push of water up to about 13 feet. That'll be in the eye wall on the right side of it, where there's that strongest push of water into the coastline. From there, the farther west it goes, that's another consideration here. Highest peaks on Jamaica are over on the eastern half of it. Yes, we have 2,000 to 3,000.